you're gonna get our sponsorship pulled. You can't make jokes like that, bro. It's too soon. You're out of pocket. Put it back in your pocket.
Rewind. Speaking
wrestling sucks. Okay, now.
All right, there we go.
What's up, Redemption? How you doing? John Hendricks here, as always, for a brand new episode of the Threshing Floor podcast. On this week's episode, we've got Brad back in. He actually stuck around for the whole episode, so the internet held up, so that's good. Anything beyond that is a positive result. So we're going to be kind of going over some recent happenings with the community, some news and notes about nationals, some other content that's been created, things like that. Not a lot going on with the power rankings, but we'll go over those. And then we're going to piggyback off of Hager the Wise's dominant tier list and kind of make our own on this episode. I kind of thought that was a better way to do kind of the discussion we were going to do about Lost Souls. So we're going to do the dominance now and piggyback off of him. So thanks for giving us something to talk about, Hager. But then we're going to potentially do the same with Lost Souls on the next episode. So glad you're here. We'll get into it. All right, guys, welcome back into a brand new episode of our favorite podcast. We've got the man who was here part-time last week. How you doing, Brad?
I'm as good as my internet signal.
Well, I am hoping that it is better than last week. We do have a slight trade-off. You might hear a slight bit of echo for Brad. He has moved locations out into the lobby of the church so that he has the best possible internet. So it's a trade-off we're trying here. Hopefully it helps the internet hold on for you. But man, Lackey Grand Prix started this past week. Biggest Lackey Grand Prix we've had. I want to say it's one of the bigger Zoom tournaments as well. I believe they were having decent numbers sign up for that. So those are underway. So we've got a lot of people playing a lot of games. But I mean, there hasn't been any huge redemption tournaments. So I just want to, at the forefront of this episode, go ahead and let you know that there may be minimal movement on the power rankings. The only thing that I have to go on is what is reported to me, and there hasn't been much. So that leaves me just with the results, me and Brad, with the results of the Lackey Grand Prix and the Zoom Discord. But anyway, it's been a fun week. We didn't record last week, obviously, because we are on a bi-weekly schedule, and I had corporate visitors in town to the warehouse, and I had to host them. Things went great there. We got approved to scrap a bunch of stuff that we've been holding on to that we are not going to ever be able to sell, just because it's old items that we're holding on to. But Brad, check this out. Let me tell you what we did. And I don't know where this falls on your ethical right or wrong. You tell me if I'm right or wrong.
I already know what you're going to say, and I'm pretty sure it's wrong, but go ahead.
No, you don't know what I'm going to say. What do you think I'm going to say? Because now I'm curious.
Well, you just talked about all this stuff you can't sell. You got to do something with it, right?
Yep.
So now you're talking about, well, maybe I could sell it or I do something with it.
Well, I asked and I got permission to sell anything that we were scrapping that we were approved to scrap. The thing is, we have two large construction dumpsters at work, and those construction dumpsters cost us $495 every time that they pick them up and dump them and return them. So obviously, in trying to save as much money as possible, if there's something we can move in an alternate way, like if there's metal that, we could call somebody, even not trying to sell, just have somebody that does scrap metal, like as a business thing, come and pick up metal so that we don't have to pay to dump it, things like that. But in the interest of trying to save as much cost for scrapping these items as we can, because we are paying to scrap them and have them dumped with the dumpster service, we're also getting some kind of, I don't know what the technical kickback is for scrapping them. So the company that we're a distributor for is paying us to scrap these. If we can get paid to scrap them and then not have to pay as much to scrap them, there's a potential profit margin there that we could kind of hem with. So this is where it gets a little gray area. And you tell me, now I was given permission to sell them, but we're getting paid to scrap 250, I believe it ended up being 2014 model Mac Minis. 250 of them. I found a buyer that gave me $15 per. So we sold them for over $3,700.
Wow.
I had a guy come put $3,700 in my hand, and I went around to each of my guys at work and put, a few $100 in their pocket. So we split the money. So we're still getting paid by the company we're a distributor for to scrap these items. They have asked us to, but then we also sold them and made money. So we're getting double paid to move these items out of the warehouse. So where does that fall in your moral compass? Is that right or wrong or indifferent?
I think that I would err on the side of that being okay, because it's not like you didn't get permission beforehand. I also have a little bit of a gray area that I fell into today.
Confessions on the podcast.
Since we're laying this all out there, I'm at work and Lacey calls me and she says, "Hey, DoorDash just left a McDonald's bag at our door." And I'm like, "Okay, what's the address on it?" There's no address. I was like, "Okay." So I called my neighbor, nothing. Called my neighbor a few doors down, nothing. I'm sitting there, I'm like, I don't know what to do. I mean, they left us food here.
You eat the food. I'm a fat guy. I'm going to tell you, you eat the food.
Well, we waited like an hour and a half, left it outside, like just in case they were going to come back or whoever, whatever. Nothing happened. So I'm like, I don't even know who to call, what to do. They're not going to take this food back anyway. So we ended up keeping it. But about, 5 minutes into eating a few things, I remembered that there's these construction workers right outside my house that are doing construction right in front of my house. I was like, this is the one time that we've ever had DoorDash come to our house accidentally. I wonder if they used our address as a way to get breakfast that morning.
Oh,
it was
man.
It was 2 chicken McGriddles, 4.
Not the McGriddles.
They were good too.
I bet they were.
4 sausage burritos, a couple
Free
drinks.
McGriddles always taste good.
And I was like, well, we done opened the bag, so there's nothing we can do about it. But why? First of all, if they did order it, why would they use our address? And then second of all, why wouldn't they come and check whenever it says, it tells them when it's delivered and all that stuff.
Okay, so you're operating off of an assumption it might have been them. No,
it had to have been them.
But you have no guarantee to that. It's not like you knowingly did that and then your actions are based off of you knowing that.
No, I don't. So I still don't know who it was, but
I think your moral compass can still point north in this situation.
Okay.
You left it there for an hour, you said, right?
Hour and a half, yeah.
So, at this point, you're eating cold McDonald's, reheated McDonald's. So, I think you're in the clear there.
Sweet.
So maybe you guys listening to the podcast here early on to this episode with our confessions, you let us know where our moral compass falls and if it's in the right area or the wrong area. Because I'm not real sure on my situation, because the more I can make money and put it in my guys' pockets for selling stuff on the side, I'm going to do that if that's an option, especially considering it keeps us from having to pay $500 per dump in the dumpster. And if somebody can put the stuff to good use, so be it.
So what you're saying is we feel like Usher. These are our confessions.
Yeah. I'm hoping that they don't make us burn. I don't want it to burn.
Let it burn.
Anyway, so in addition to that, I've also, if you know anybody that needs mask for like K95 mask, kids mask, adults mask, if you need some sanitizer, 1 gallon jugs of sanitizer, if you need some dispensers for hand sanitizer, the stand for dispensers, if you need infrared thermometers, if you need digital thermometers, any of those things, level
Hey.
2 gowns, level 3 gowns, I've got all that stuff, and I've been approved to throw it away because it's been in the warehouse for so long.
I will
Because we
take you
got it.
up on the stands with the hand sanitizer.
Will you?
Yeah, we need some of those.
Okay. Well,
I'll take you up.
okay, we've got those. I think we ended up with like 24 stands, and then we have what feels like 1,000 of the actual dispensers, and you can wall mount them. We got the sanitizer. We've got all this stuff. It was purchased by our company, and this is something that we own, not the company we're a distributor for. Like, we own it, and we've just gotten to where we're trying to clear out some space in the warehouse, get old stuff out that's not moving, and room to expand and grow the business moving forward in the same warehouse without having to, we're overloaded, we need to move to a new warehouse. But I've got all of this stuff because the owner of our company thought he was going to be able to make a lot of money shortly after the COVID thing. So he invested into all this stuff, and it's just been sitting. Like, when I say, dude, I have like well over 60,000 masks.
Wow.
Yeah, I have a ton. I've got different kinds too. I've got just the little ear loop ones, the little soft 3-ply one. I think they might have the metal piece that goes over your nose, the light blue ones. The real generic. And then I've got the ones that look like they have that weird shape to them. It looks like a construction worker's using it. We've got those. We've got little kids' masks with cute little cartoons on them. So if you need mask, I know we've got mask of like all kinds of things on the evil side in Redemption now that Roots has come out. But if you need the other kind of mask, like the real, like, I don't want to get sick type of mask, I could hook you up. So if you're listening to this podcast, call 1-800-JOHN's got you.
Ethically or non-ethically.
Yeah.
He's got you.
With a side of ethics. But it's kind of a cool segue here to start. And I really didn't know where we were going to start on this podcast, but I wanted to mention it on the podcast in some fashion because it's important to the community. It happened, and people should be aware of it. It was shared. And this is where kind of we talk about that moral compass. The moral compass was not there in this situation, unfortunately, but there was a community member that was making, producing, and selling fraudulent cards. And that person, the information is all in. I don't want this to be a bashing thing. Now, if we had recorded last week, Brad, like, I was pretty heated, so I might have bashed a little bit or a lot. I was very, very heated because it seemed like there was no desire to be remorseful for the actions or to try to make it right. But thankfully, the name of the game is Redemption. And that's what our community is built on, the game of redemption. And the word redemption and what it means is a perfect encapsulation of this situation, because every person that was wronged in this situation, to our knowledge now, has been made right or been compensated for it. And the person, his first name is Adam. He has done his part to make amends with what he's done. And the community is welcoming him back with open arms and offering him the same kind of grace that we get when we've all sinned, fallen short of God's glory and all of that. There's none of us that are perfect. We all have mistakes. Some of us skate around the moral compass a little bit, kind of like me selling some Mac Minis from 2014, maybe. Brad eating some McDonald's that was left on his doorstep today, ironically, while we're talking about this topic and the gray area with morals and ethics here. But it's really, it's kind of a really cool thing to see the community acknowledge this, find out, the elders go through their due diligence to find out who the person is, and then they were given the opportunity to make amends, and they chose to do that. And it's just kind of a heartwarming story, if you will, Brad. Mm-hmm. It's kind of cool to see the grace that our game is built on, and kind of the whole source material of the game kind of come to reality in letting it play out with this situation. And I'm glad that we got to that point and we didn't record last week when I probably would have been pretty animated about being disappointed for the way people in our community was wronged. And I'm glad to know that they've been made right.
Yeah, I think I really like the way that it was just handled in general. Being in a church and having to deal with situations like this on occasion, the way that I felt like the elders handled it was obviously, like you said, getting to the bottom of it was good, but also like they didn't like dance around the issue. They came with a direct and truthful, but graceful, verdict, I guess. The way they came about everything, but then they left the area open for grace, And I think that's what we have to do. Like, if you see somebody in, a friend or family member or church member stumbling one way, you want to come at them with the truth. You don't want to just fluff it and, dance around the issue. Like, come at them directly, truthfully, but lovingly, and then allow for redemption and grace to take place. So I feel like that's what happened. I could be, if there's something I'm missing, maybe, but from what I've seen.
Yeah, I think the elders handled it the right way. Like when they weren't getting an immediate response of, someone wanting to make amends for it or admit their wrongdoing, the information that they gathered, they made sure it was accurate. They released his screen name. They didn't go out of their way to bash him, just to explain exactly what happened. I think they handled it as good as you could have done in that situation. But I will say that I am the type of person, and this is not directed toward Adam in any type of way. Like I said, if I had recorded last week, I probably would have been more animated. But you know me, Brad, I have a minimal filter. If something can be made lighthearted, I'm going to make it lighthearted. That's just how we're going to do. So we all need to just acknowledge that we've made it. Redemption is on the map, baby. We're so big now, we've got fraudulent counterfeit cards. I mean, you don't wake up one day, create a trading card game, and have fake cards. You got to be well established. You got to have a product that people want. And the people want it so much that there's fake cards out there on the market.
And the card value's got to be good enough to want to fake it.
Right. So Redemption's made it, baby. I'd just like to say that.
How many 2016 Son of God do you think are out there now?
I don't know. I did hear a rumor that someone randomly had 2 of them that was not within the group of people that we know have them. So if he did have 2, I wonder. I'm
not pointing any elbows, but
I have one, and I know where it came from. It came from Mr. John Early, who won it fair and square. So I feel confident that my 2016 Son of God is unscathed through this situation.
So I just thought about this, but they started putting watermarks on the spoilers and stuff.
Yes, and I really like that idea.
Is that something that's going to be like on Your Turn Games and Three Lions Gaming, and like as far as all the images on the internet are all going to have watermarks, you think, going forward?
I think I would love the opportunity to see that become a trend, but it would be undoing a lot of things and redoing it. Because right now I could go and rip an image from Your Turn Games or somewhere else because they don't have a watermark, and then we could be in the same situation.
I mean, we did that a lot, actually, when we first started.
Yeah, like we weren't printing out proxy on paper. We weren't using the printer that the game uses to make them. I feel like that's a distinct like black and white difference.
Yeah. I'm just saying we got a little bit of experience.
Yeah, like in Lackey and things where you have the images of the cards. Like I wouldn't mind all of the cards having some kind of Cactus Game Design watermark in order to protect the integrity of the game moving forward. But again, that would take on a lot of, like redoing things. So Your Turn Games, Three Lions, they would have to be
Covenant games.
No, Covenant doesn't have. The Covenant doesn't have to worry about this. You need to calm down. Calm down. John, you got to get your man. But, like, your turn games and Three Lions Gaming would have to be on board with that because they would have to go and delete the image for each card and then re-upload one that does have the watermark. So it would be a lot of work on their end. But I do think that it would help protect the integrity of the game moving forward since we have reached the big time where we have counterfeit cards.
That's right.
I wonder, though, if... So I would assume that all of the cards that have been found to be counterfeit or being probably provided to Cactus in some way, maybe, or either just some way to make sure that they're being scrapped. To where like all of this encompassing one situation doesn't spill over and potentially, lead into another situation. So I think that will kind of help contain it. So long story short on all of this moral ethics talk is I'm glad that Adam has done the right thing. We as a community can extend him the same grace that we're extended through our faith and things. Like, we're supposed to be able to, somebody does us wrong, turn the other cheek. We're not supposed to hold it against them. We're supposed to, just kind of let God handle the situation. And I think that is, okay. Go do your thing, Brad. So I'm going to let you guys know for you, because you can't see Brad. Brad, because he's out in the church lobby, the lights are on the timer. This is the second time that they have gone off. The second time the lobby lights have turned off on the timer. So we do have that. I know that last time we were recording with Brad, we talked about we wanted to do a discussion on Lost Souls, and I got hit in the head with just an aha moment when Jacob Ager the Wise posted his tier list for dominance. And I want to, what we're going to end up doing is going over that and then making our own dominant tier list here, going back and forth so that I'll give Brad a dominant and he will put it in a tier list wherever. And then he'll give me one. So we'll go back and forth. We can try to persuade the other one, but the final decision will rest with that person. So it's both of us coming together to give you the podcast list for dominant tiers. And the reason that we're doing that instead is I realized that that's a better way to do the Lost Soul discussion that we were going to do. We were going to just long form talk about it. But I think building a graphic as we go with a tier list is kind of a better option. So we're going to work on doing that for next time. And we're just going to piggyback off of what Ager did here and go over dominance. So that'll be the main thing that we're going to do. We'll also touch up on the power rankings. And then we're going to go over some recent things that have happened or that have been discussed within the community just to make sure everyone's on top of the community happenings. I know that we talked about not doing the videos and explicitly telling you about each one individually because we don't have enough time to get those done before we record episodes. So we don't want to speak ignorantly about, that's the only way to say it, ignorantly about these videos, but they are good resources. So we still want to let you know that they're out there, but there's brand new videos from Baboony Tim, Tyler Talks, Redemption with Jaden, and Rob M Studios this week. And one that I do want to talk about in particular is the Redemption with Jaden video, because there is a card combo in here that has been discussed a little bit recently. And you and I both, I believe, watched the video. I know I watched the video. I think you watched the video because you were well aware of what I was talking about. And that's the Ashkelon combo, to where you can move a captured character in and out of a fortress in order to constantly re-trigger if a Lost Soul is put here on Ashkelon to max out 4 discards from hand each turn. So Brad, let me ask you, how strong do you think this combo is?
If you can pull the combo off, it is massively good. we saw that in the game where essentially Jay had knew what was coming, put some cards in his deck to try to tech for it, and still got off. But when you go from 7 or 8 cards in your hand to 3 or 4 in one round, and then you have to try to play that round, and then it's coming next round. I mean, hand discard's a lot better than deck discard.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
It's just hard to catch up. I mean, we know that from Love at First Sight a few years ago. When you can get rid of all 8 cards in their hand and then they have to start over with 3. I mean, it's nearly impossible when their board is set up and you're having to start with no board and 3 cards. But, there's a lot of things that can be done about it. There are a lot of cards that can help deal with it. You just have to make sure that you got cards like that in your deck just in case, kind of thing.
Before I give any thoughts that I have on it, let me just ask you point blank. Do you think it's a negative play experience thing? Do you think it becomes NPE? Because it was already put in Discord, and I don't like this part about our community. I like everything about our community, and I like everything about the people within our community. But it is a little frustrating that as soon as something comes out, we have a group of people. And I'm one of those that if it comes out and we know that it's bad, like we know it is, get rid of it. The Widow thing was absolutely terrible. Watching an opponent go through their entire deck before there was any limit of 4 activations, that was a busted thing that should not have existed. As soon as it was discovered, should have been fixed.
Yeah.
I'm on board with that. This is something that is easily interacted with. I believe it has different ways to limit it or just completely shut it down. Not to mention the random, like how many take a side abilities do people have on cards that they play and they never use that part of the ability. Take a side or a fortress. Nah, I'm not going to do that, but I'm going to do this part of it. So there's options. But do you think it is a negative play experience, or do you think it is oppressive enough to be in that category?
I think it's as much of a negative play experience as Honeypot. And I'm not saying either one is, but I know the first time that I played it, Jay played me twice right before that Thomas J. Memorial Tournament, and he beat me twice in less than an hour. He just wiped my deck. But it's because my defense wasn't CVP, CBN. It was a lot of good defense, CBI from time to time. So my defense was horrible. My offense obviously took a hit. Having one character in battle when you have abandoned defense, which I really like. I mean, when you get hit with a deck like that, when you can't ban and you can't use your characters, it feels negative. But at the same time, once you know about it, you can at least expect it. So if Jaden had hit me with 4 cards per turn in a tournament and I'd never seen it before, I'd probably be like, that hurts. But now that it's, once it's out there though, I think that I think it's okay because I've seen it.
Right.
So.
And you have the opportunity now to tech against it. And part of the thing is, Jay knew about it, and he, even with the foreknowledge of knowing what was coming, because John early showed him the deck list, which I'm just saying, if you have a brother-in-law that plays this game competitively and is going to play a competitive game, and he shows you a deck beforehand, maybe you just don't share that with somebody that might be a top competitor in that competitive sphere that they're playing in. That's just whatever. Because I would have much rather see it happen without the foreknowledge of it, just to see how negative it could be. Like if Jay didn't know it existed, or that Jaden was playing it and that there was a way to move to trigger it 4 times each turn. See how negative it could have gotten. Not that I want to see Jay get beaten in a negative experience for him, although some would say it might be payback for Jay doing that to Jaden a few weeks back. But just to see kind of this is as bad as it can be right here, and everything, how bad was that in that instance? But I think the combo being negative play experience is limited in the fact that, okay, Jay knew about it and he was able to hold it off for 2 turns, but not hold it off completely. Well, Jay also had a bad hand and didn't have pieces to interact with it at the time that he needed to. And it still took 2 turns, even if you get it off first turn. Like, I remember last year, and especially the year before, the season before that, and it kind of tapered off last year, and it still tapered off now. There used to be every deck had a negate neutral guy. Okay. We stopped playing them because we didn't find that they were necessary, or the opportunity cost of having that character versus having a high value character that can help you in battle. There was just various reasons people took them out of their deck. Okay. Or, maybe people aren't even playing the meat stuff anymore, so they don't fit in their deck. But every deck has an opportunity to put a guy in that negates neutral cards. What stops the combo? You've got 3 woes. You've got the potential site destruction. You've got, hey, I'm just going to play Noah, and he can shuffle a card every turn. I come into battle, I shuffle your site. Good luck finding it back. Each
Hand
turn.
protection stops it.
Hand protection, yes. You have also, if you have territory protection for your guys, you force them to capture their own guys. Now, if you're building a deck that's trying to go crazy and combo this off, they're probably going to expect to have to capture their own guys anyway. But you can limit their options. Don't let them capture your guys. But also,
Son of God, Second Coming.
Yeah, Jaden had built a deck that was entirely trying to do this, and it still took him 2 turns to do it. I don't think it's going to be something that's like completely oppressive. I do think it's something that could be good, and if you're already playing Philistines, you can throw it in and get the ability in there. But I don't think it's something to where, woe is me, the sky is falling. But yet, when you read some of the comments, we were already, this needs to be fixed. Moving things in and out of fortresses. It was talked about a little bit last year with Chamber of Angels, but then people just kind of, it wasn't that big of a problem. I still think Chamber of Angels being able to create 4 tokens to get a impartial judgment playoff in the right deck, and be able to negate everything in your territory by putting one of those tokens in Chamber of Angels. And then, I'm playing things that have meat characters. They get the benefits for that. I think the things that are enabled by the Chamber of Angels, not to mention the Star of Bethlehem play, getting to draw a bunch, and I feel like that's pretty oppressive from moving things in and out of fortresses. We weren't calling out fortresses and the movement of characters in and out of them freely up to the 4 time limit before that this season so far. Like, I hadn't heard anybody say, oh yeah, don't forget, it's still oppressive that Chamber of Angels can do this. No, we've just kind of accepted it. But now Jaden comes out with this combo that makes you discard 4 cards from your hand if he pulls it off. Now it's an oppressive game mechanic because it enables different things. I get that the game mechanic could be cleaned up to where it feels weird to move things with no other outside thing. Just, I can just move this card in and out 4 times. I get that. I'm not arguing that that could be cleaned up, but I also think redemption it has issues that stem from a long history of various groups of people with varying identities and personalities helping construct and make the rules of redemption. There's going to be things that are not perfect. We admit that, right, Brad?
Yeah, of course.
The big thing to me, though, is we put in place a 4 activation rule, which is a catch. It proofs the game a little bit. Like, it can get out of hand, but it can't get 2 out of hand because you're limited to 4 on anything. And so I think people asking for a rule change to be implemented for fortresses, okay, I'd be okay with that. But I'm also okay with just letting it ride and let the 4 activation rule that we've already put in place, just let it do its job. Yeah. And I don't think that this is oppressive enough to where you should take it away from a player that found a cool way to combo. Like Jared, Jaden, Chad to an extent. There's a lot of players in our community that are just those combo type players. They want to find a way to do something unique and creative. And I mean, that's why Jaden is always at the forefront of finding these type of combos and things. And it's just like, as soon as we find one, it's like this woe is me cry that we've got to get rid of it immediately. And it's so old and tired. Like, I would appreciate the challenge of knowing somebody's going to play that against me and having to also tech for that, and seeing if I could stop it. Like, one of the coolest things I've seen since I've been a Redemption player, and this is no knock on anybody else that's won a national title, but when Josh Potratz came and with minimal play time during the season, found out what the combo deck was, love at first sight, and then got into his, let's just say, his mad scientist lab, and he was like, I'm going to find a way to beat that. Dude, he was putting cards on the table, and I was like, what is that for? And he's like, that's for laughs. That's for laughs. And it was like, it didn't make sense, but it made sense because he was targeting, he was answering the challenge of stopping love at first sight. And it's just like, instead of accepting the challenge up front and seeing if we can stop it with cards that are in the card pool, there's whoa, we got to fix this. So I'll step off my soapbox now, but I did want to bring up the combo deck and kind of at least share my thoughts on it. What would you say as a rebuttal to that, or do you agree with that, Brad?
Well, I remember having a podcast one time with, I think it was Jay, where he said Redemption's about having a question and then answering the question. So the question is, being posed is, I'm going to discard 4 cards with this combo. So what's going to be the answer? That's something that we as Redemption players are constantly figuring out as different meta comes out and different styles and different combos. Now, I was thinking about this, and I do tend to, when I see something like this, I do like to think of, like, could something be better? And this is kind of what I thought of. So you tell me what you think. All right, this may be a little too, and this is not towards the Ashkelon combo, but I think that I do agree that, like, the holds thing, moving somebody in and out of a hold, you know, like a fort, seems odd, you know.
It does seem odd.
Stuff like that.
But also, like, do you want to write another hard rule, or do we want to just let the 4 activation handle it?
No. This is kind of like the 4, but it could replace the 4, for instance. So, like, what if you could only play a card 2 or 3 times, activate, you know, a certain card 2 or 3 times per game or per phase. So, like, I can only do it twice in the prep phase or twice in the battle phase or whatever by my activation, but as many times as I want if the opponent does something. For instance, like Shield, for as many times they searches, the 4 activation limit wouldn't even, if they search 7 times, I get to hide 7 souls because they're doing the action. If I have Jonah out there and they search 7 times, 7 cards are going in because they're doing the action.
But you could only do something one time or something like that.
Once or twice or maybe up to 3 times. If I'm doing the action with the card, I only get to do it that amount of time. So I think that would be a fair replacement if we were to go that route.
I think so as well. But I think the 4 activation thing is just clean across the board, so it's easy. In the hopes of simplifying the game, I think it makes more sense.
Yeah, I mean,
than having multiple limits. Now, if it was you could trigger abilities once on your turn, and
just
then
once.
Yeah, just so, like, if you play down, you play down Ashkelon and you move something into it, you trigger it one time, but you can't trigger it any more than one time per turn because the opponent would have to trigger it for you, and there's no way for them to interact and do that.
Yeah.
So it would fix that. You would also have, like, high places. That does something like if you're, if you're lone priest or something like that blocks. Well, you can only trigger that one time anyway.
See, but I would feel like it would need to be at least 2 because your character, like your generic characters, for instance, can come into battle twice. Really as many times. I'm
trying to think through and try to find some interaction, like where you were talking about, like, you would want to be able to trigger it twice. What's a card that you're thinking of you would want to be able to trigger twice?
I mean, you could do Star of Bethlehem twice in a turn, or
Yeah, but Star of Bethlehem is
ride on victoriously, stuff like that.
Those are dominance. I don't think those would be affected by this. Like, I'm thinking, like, a card you put in play and you can potentially trigger it multiple times. Like, for example, Chamber of Angels. Like I can make one token, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you're saying you limit it to creating one token per turn? Because I can put another nativity hero down but not create a token if I've already done it. Or you're saying you would like that type of thing to be able to do twice.
Well, like you can create as many tokens because you're playing different cards, and I don't know if like, you know what I'm saying, like, but you couldn't like go in with the same card like into the chamber, out of the chamber, create a token, in the chamber, out, like with the same card. Or I don't know. I don't even know. Like that's what I'm saying.
We are firmly down a rabbit hole now.
I know. I didn't think through like every card in the game, but I was just thinking like,
well, that's
you shouldn't be limited if your opponent's doing something.
Right, and like I get that.
You know, because
which I lost
they get to choose.
I potentially lost because of Sheol in my Lackey Grand Prix game, and I'll talk about that in a little bit. But I could see that the desire for wanting to be able to let your counter cards punish your opponent as much as possible. But then again, how much of that leads into, if we're going to keep printing cards and themes of decks that search and go and do this and that, we're going to make players choose they can do that, or they can not do that and gain the benefit of the theme and the cards that they are playing the way they were written in order to not trigger the opponent's thing that is unlimited in terms of how many times it can trigger and give them a benefit. So again, like it feels like the 4 activation thing might be the happy medium there.
Yeah, and I agree.
So like you can trigger your shield 4 times, but then I can do unlimited searches that turn and just try not to search the next turn so that you don't hide souls.
Yeah, so like with Sheol, like obviously you could search it, like if it's my Sheol, I can search as many times as I want, it's not going to go off. So the only time it's going to be active is if I add it to battle, add a character to battle, or if you search. So like that feels like a card that shouldn't be punished by the 4 activation rule because the opponent is in control of it. But like the Ashkelon combo, for instance, the opponent's not in control of any of that. It's all the active player. So
like, I mean,
if you don't have the cards in hand to stop it, then you just can't, you know what I'm saying?
I get what you're saying, and like long term, find an answer for the fortresses move in and out. Sure, if we want to do that, that's fine. But I don't know about letting Sheol be an unlimited thing because again, when I'm playing, say, the Wilderness deck that can go and search for its cards very efficiently, like I get to go and search for Moses, and I come in with Moses, he goes and search for a battle winner, and then he bans to somebody that can search for something else. Like you're playing the cards as they were designed, and the opponent puts one card down and it stops the card design of that entire theme.
All it
feels imbalanced.
All it takes is a negate. The thing is, Sheol's not in set aside. I mean, it's in set aside, but it's negatable now
with the default targeting rules. Yes.
Yeah, it's a lot easier. It's a lot easier to interact with Sheol than it used to be.
That's what I was saying. It just feels like maybe the happy medium is what we already have with the 4 activation. You can trigger it 4 times, but then after that.
But could we change the 4 activation to where it's only 4 activations by the active player? And not limit it to the opponent.
Again, like, I don't know that Sheol should have unlimited reign when you're playing the cards as they were designed.
So the 4 activation rule has only been out for what, a year?
I think it's been out for. Did they do the 4 activation rule before Widow got banned? I think they did.
No,
but I can't remember.
Because they played that at Nationals.
I know we played it at Nationals, but I was thinking
without the 4 activations. It came sometime after that.
I thought we did have the 4 activation because Jeremy, when he played Circus, when we played that in teams, I thought we could only trigger like the first 4 times and that type. Like I thought in that meta, like there was things that were limited, but I could be remembering the timeline.
Yeah, I don't remember it, but it's been within like the last year or 2. So before that, Sheol's had free reign, and you're talking about, I was a big Ruth player when the LOC came out. I know that Ruth is nearly all searching, so Sheol just went off. So I know what it's like to be against Sheol, and like I said, when I get hit with blindness this last year, it disrupted my entire deck. Because everything was searching. So up until like the last year or so,
Was it searching or was there potential exchanges? Because blindness is not as strong as a lot of people think it is, because it's only if you are taking a card from deck. If you are playing a card from deck, it still goes against the exact card. If you are exchanging, it still goes against the exact card.
yeah, there's not a ton of cards that exchange like that though. I mean, you got like
Right, but
Deceiver
like
and
your
stuff.
what is it? A Limilet lets you go in and search your deck for a card to put in battle. If it puts it directly into battle, then it could be the exact one against blindness.
Yeah, it says to take a Ruth Hero from deck
Oh, okay. So it
And
wouldn't stop
then-
in that interaction, but like
or reserve and or add a Ruth Hero to battle. So you take it and then you add it.
so it maybe wouldn't work there, but there's things to where like, you know, like Peter playing a fortress with his convert to play a fortress ability. You could do that against an opponent's active blindness because he's putting it in play. So it's not to take because take defaults to hand.
Yeah.
So since it's going into play, it's not a take anymore. So it doesn't trigger blindness.
Yeah, Angel of the Winds would be another one.
Yeah, Angel of the Winds exchange. All the exchange are angels for disciples. So there's things that make blindness not quite as strong as it initially looks like it is when you look at the card. It's still a very good card, especially considering the enhancement side is so good. But anyway, we're firmly down this rabbit hole, so
Yeah.
let's try to pull it back a little
But
bit.
it does make you think though.
It
at
definitely
least,
does.
Could we? So this would be my proposal. If I were to make a rule change, which I think is great right now. I'm not saying we should. So I hope nobody gets me wrong on this. Like, I'm fine with the way it is. But if it were to get tweaked, maybe we drop it down to 3. But it's unlimited. It's unlimited if the opponent does things. But it's 3 activations by the active player. You know, I think that would also help out with any, combos or anything. But that's just me.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's pull out of the rabbit hole here. So there's videos
We're
from
out of
all.
there.
Yeah, there's videos from all of the different content creators that do videos for us. So go and check all of those out. Again, spotlighted the Redemption with Jaden there because there is a combo that, even if you aren't keeping up with Discord as intensely as we do, maybe just talking about it a little bit here will get somebody to go and check it out, because it's something you definitely should be aware of now that it's been discovered that you can do that with the fortresses moving captured characters in and out. But I would like to make one small announcement about Nationals, because Nationals is something that I definitely want to keep the hype going for. At the time of recording, Nationals is 115 days away. 115, Brad. So you got 115 days. It was said in the past couple of weeks since we last recorded, I mentioned on a previous episode that I had heard a rumor that this thing was possibly happening. But it is now confirmed. It is definitely happening, and I'm stoked for it. And I would have been in it last year if we're going by the top 8. But Top Cut, yes. Top Cut, the thing that inspired an entire Redemption podcast called Top Cut Savvy that made it about 4 or 5 episodes before shutting down and moving to Portland.
Got lost in Portland.
The very thing that has challenged players to build their decks in a way to where they can move through a field of various opponents and then get to a smaller tournament field and be able to operate well within that as well. Just the deck building implications, possibly checking in a second deck. Which deck do you pick for Top Cut? Those are things that we haven't seen as much over the last 5 years since we've really been involved in the game. Or we came in 2019 after Nationals, and I believe that's the last Nationals that had Top Cut. Mm-hmm. So it's going to be really cool to see that come back. So Top Cut is happening at Nationals this year. Top 8 players from the open portion of the tournament will be selected, and they will move on into an 8-man tournament based on seedings for how you finished. So top 8, obviously 8 and 1 will play 2 and 7, so forth, so on. Jay's not going to mess up the bracket here. There'll be too many people at Nationals to allow him to mess up the bracket. Sorry, Jay. Love you, man. But we'll leave the bracket jokes in the past there. But it's really cool to see that Top Cut is coming back, and I'm super excited about this. What do you think about Top Cut and the implications it might have on a tournament like Nationals?
I mean, it can't make it worse. I mean, if you're
I mean, I guess it could if you're the 9th player and you just get edged out by like half a point.
But I mean, hey.
You could be like, man, this sucks. I hate Top Cut.
Yeah, but it's either like, the alternative is you get to the 8th spot and you just stay at 8. But
Yeah.
like with Top Cut, if you're at 8, you have a chance to be number 1.
Yeah.
So I mean, it can only make it better or more interesting for the field.
Yeah. Not ever having experienced a redemption tournament that's had Top Cut. Only experience really is with the Lackey Grand Prix. Not that I've been in any Top Cut games. You've been in at least one. Actually, you made it to the final, so you won one, and then you lost to Jaden, which who can blame you?
No, I lost to Josh.
Oh, was it Josh? It was Josh. That's right.
Yeah.
You beat Jaden and then lost to Josh. That's right. But just the thought of how it could impact just people and their willingness to check in like a second deck, even if you don't play that second deck. But that second deck is what you check in for Top Cut. Like, so you have one that answers multiple things, and then one that maybe has less of a spread of answers and more concentrated on what the heavy meta things are. If you believe in your ability to call the meta and what it might be, so you get a smaller spread of decks in that top 8, because assuming you made the right meta call, you know what's going to rise to the top in the tournament. I don't know. It'd be really cool to just see how that plays out, being that we've never experienced that as members of the community when it's happening. But Top Cut is returning for Nationals 2024. So I don't know how much of that went into or became Jay's decision versus elders and leadership otherwise. But whoever out there, thank you for at least giving the excitement of, I'm going to get to see what Top Cut does. And with that, I know the number one question that's going to come with that, is there a Top Cut promo? There is not, unfortunately. But Jay did say that he is working on something in an unofficial capacity, I believe, to offer something. I don't want to give any more words to it or give it any more legs because I have no idea what that is. But there was a lot of googly eyes on a post on Discord. That's all I know. So we'll wait and see how that turns out. But excited for Top Cut to return to Nationals. Well, I guess that brings us to this other tidbit of information before we talk about the unofficial tournaments. I would like to mention official tournaments, and that is the official online tournaments. I know that Renee, our friend from Germany, was asking about this on Discord, and Watchman, Derek, former owner of Your Turn Games, mentioned that it was time to pass the torch, and he no longer is able or what have you to host online official tournaments. That's something that had been happening pretty consistently after COVID, and then kind of dried up here this past off season, if we call it the off season after Nationals, and has not picked back up. So he will no longer be hosting those. He's not able to. And I don't know if those are ever going to actually resume. There was some interest showed by Luke Marshall. He mentioned he hasn't been able to set up an established play group where he's at. So he might have interest in heading up some official online tournaments if given permission from Rob and leadership. But as of now, I guess we would say that the outlook is undefined. And if you put a gun to our head and said, define it, I would be like, looks like we might not get official tournaments back online. It was kind of cool to have those as an outlet, especially because it let Renee have the chance to play in those tournaments from afar and earn promos and things, just like he was part of the tournament scene stateside here. So that's one thing that I hope that people will take into consideration in making the call whether or not to continue those or not, is just how it allows interaction within our game for people that are abroad or don't have a good play group in their area to have a chance to win those promos. But I wanted to make sure that I brought that up on the podcast in case anybody's out there listening and wondering about those official tournaments. Now, the unofficial tournaments for this week, we have the Zoom Discord Series 18 is underway. So after week 1, guess who's number 1, Brad?
Our boy from Germany himself.
Our boy from Germany who 5-0'd poor E-Man. E-Man was, I'm pretty sure, as Daniel has gotten more popular within the current meta and talks of Daniel being one of the toughest decks to play and maybe is the deck with all the things that Daniel answers in the band with Daniel Captain, that type of, or not Captain, Daniel Michael, just what that right there gives you is pretty strong. So I don't know if he was playing that in this or not. Another noticeable thing is Jaden dropped his first game in the Zoom Discord. So right now you've got in first place with a +5 soul differential is Renee. In second place is Hi, I'm Null. And that's +3. And I guess this would be tied for second with Ager the Wise, who is also +3. And then Red and Rob M Studios and Ghost Rider are all tied for that next spot down. So that's where it stands. It looks like notable finishes. Looks like there was a timeout tie for the Guardian and Card Game Fanatic. So he's number 2 on our power rankings, tied here in week 1 of the Rob M Zoom Discord Invitational. So that's where we stand there. It's hard to give a lot of detailed updates on it since neither one of us are participating in that one. But we are participating in the Lackey Grand Prix number 15, Brad. And I saw that you unfortunately went down in the first round. Muhammad Ali got to you in the first round and put you down.
I went down 5-2 and it wasn't that close.
You want to take a few moments and share about your week 1 game, and then I'll do the same.
Yeah, I played Demon Hunter, and
hey, now keep in mind, we did challenge him. We was like, bro, you're always at that break point, but we need you to win some things. Well, the only thing he can do is kick your butt when you're the matchup. So he did what we asked him to do.
He did. He got me really well. I mean, like I said, I didn't rescue a soul. I got the 2 free ones, and I barely did that. I did that on the last play of the game. I got my second soul before he was able to drop his Son of God. So, because I didn't have a soul out there. But so great game to Rob. Like I said, I was telling him, I was like, man, you just keep going to the top, man. Just keep doing what you're doing, because he's always gonna have a good deck.
What did you play, and what did he play against you?
I guess we can reveal decks, right?
Well, part of the next thing that I'm going to talk about is the fact that we've shared so many decks from week 1. I don't know if you shared yours, but no, I know that he at least shared his, so you're okay to share
that's
his.
Right. So he did. He shared it. Okay, so he played Honeypot, and he got it out pretty early. You know, that's one thing he said, that I guess he's played a few games with it. It's pretty much like the same kind of sequence over and over. Like every game is like, all right, I do this, this, and get this.
It's kind of like Flood from last year. Like, it's really good, but there's not variety really. It's like it just plays the same game plan. Somebody asked, I think it was maybe Babooni Tim asked why more people weren't playing it. And I was like, it feels like it's probably a creatively restrictive deck to play. Like, you don't get to change up a lot of things. It's not like in between games you're changing multiple cards. It's really just it's good, and it's like a B, a high B to low A type deck if the right pilot is piloting it. I think that's where I think it is now.
Mm-hmm.
I think as more people play it and people play against it and everything, it starts to lose a little edge. Kind of like Flood did last year. Not saying that Jay was wrong for playing it all tournament season, but I think as people got exposure to it, they figured out ways and wrinkles to answer it. But there's not enough. It doesn't have enough headroom for you to, okay, well, they answered me this way. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I just don't think you can answer their answer to your deck because you don't have enough headroom because the deck's just what it is.
Yeah, I mean, I can agree with that. So, like, I played an empty tomb. I tried to play an empty tomb offense, and none of the empty tomb is, like, CBP. I don't think hardly at all, other than, like, Peter. I didn't get a whole lot of heroes and stuff. It was, like, just coming, like, one at a time. But my main, like, I'm trying to make Salome great. That was my goal over the last couple games I played. I don't know how she is not, like... When I read her card, if blocked from hand, that's the kicker. But if you get her out, obviously turn one, or if you can bounce their cards, which Empty Tomb is pretty good about that with some cards. Protect Lost Souls and this card from evil cards. So you're protecting Lost Souls, you're protecting her. Good enhancements are regardless of protect abilities, and she can convert to Meek, so you can't negate it. That just feels like this card should be a great offensive card. She's protected, souls are protected. All her enhancements are regardless of protect, but I can't get her to work, so maybe the community is smarter than me.
It almost feels like Mordecai.
Yeah.
You remember when you read him and you're like, dude, there's got to be a way to make him consistently work, and it's just so hard. In theory, you can build it, you can play it, and it just you never get that payoff moment to where it's like worth all of the effort.
So two things. One, both of them are just too slow because they don't draw, they don't band, that kind of thing. So even if you rescue a soul with them, you're behind the game because you didn't do anything. You just put them out there, you got a soul, and that was it. And so now your opponent's up 10 cards, and you're trying to catch up the rest of the game. But another thing with Mordecai is he was so easy to chump block because he had high numbers. So you just come in there, you protect the souls or whatever else, and it's like, oh, well, nothing I can do now. But she felt a little bit better with all the things she could do, but I don't know.
It's just too hard to consistently make it pay off.
Yeah.
I think that's the best way to describe it. But when it comes to and this is something before we go into that, there was a discussion that came up, and I don't know if I can't recall if we talked about it on the podcast. But there was a discussion about talking in between rounds at tournaments. And I, for one, do not like the idea of me sitting down against an opponent that I haven't talked to, I haven't shared my deck with, in that tournament, what I'm playing, and them knowing what I'm playing and how to play against it. Because their buddy played against me earlier or heard, from who I played and then told them what. I don't like all of that. Now, after a tournament, anything that you see played, I think is fair game for you to share as part of your experience. And I think that was one of the things that came up. Like, I don't think there's anything that you see. So when you were hesitant about talking about what Rob played, Rob chose to go into a public tournament, so to speak, play a deck. That deck now becomes public knowledge from your memory. Anything that happened to you, I think, is free to share, even if he had chosen not to share his deck list. I don't think there's any guarantee of anonymity with decks or combos that people might play, things of that nature, once it's played in a tournament. Anybody
Unless
can take that experience and share it.
Unless they probably specifically ask you not to. That may be the only exception. Yeah, if they ask you.
If they ask you to do that, it's kind of a... I think they're putting you in a position that they shouldn't have the right to put you in a position to be in the middle of that. Like, hey, I know you just played this. Please don't tell anybody about what I just played. So now it limits your ability to talk about what happened in your game. Like that's kind of a.
Well,
I'm
talking about like a combo rather than like if I'm playing Empty Tomb, you could say that. But like if I have like found something that was really good, I want people to tech for, then maybe I say, hey, just hold off on this. I
think that it is definitely fair for them to ask, and it's fair for you to choose to honor that or choose not to. Like, I'm not saying be a butthole about it. But if you saw this cool combo and you want to tell your friend that this cool combo beat you, why shouldn't you be able to say that after the tournament? Now, I'm not saying in between rounds, because you don't want it to influence future rounds that they're going to play in that tournament. But afterwards, you should be able to share whatever happened to you in that tournament. Anyway,
Yeah.
that deck list was shared. I know that at least the person that I played, Luke Marshall, he has shared his as well, so I don't have that issue. But had he not shared his deck list, I would still feel confident that I could share that as part of my experience in playing round one.
Yeah.
But we kind of had similar decks in the fact that he was playing demons, I was playing demon thieves, and then he had GOC offense, mostly angels early on, and then it kind of transitioned. He had set up the potential to have a Daniel band with captain. I believe there was a potential for captain. I might be wrong on that, but definitely with Michael Chief Prince, Daniel, things like that. And then I was playing Disciples on offense with the Exchanger Angels and then just Disciples. It was basically what I played was Keegan's deck. We had it down to 58 because I built it, and instead of 57, I accidentally had it at 58 when I showed him before Kentucky State. And of course, hey bud, which card do you want to cut to get down to an even 57? I don't want to cut any, Dad. I like them all. So I'm trying to, without him knowing, work it down to 50 so it'll be more efficient. And I was at 53, and I couldn't get down to 50 before our scheduled game for me and Luke. So I played it at 53, so that's the reason for the random odd number. But I played it. It played well. I ended the game. I searched into a couple of shield triggers, thinking that it wasn't going to hurt me in the long run. It hurt me in the long run. He also, the last ruling that I had heard on Hopper was that once it's in the opponent's land of bondage, it can't be targeted by Son of God. What's the last ruling? You knew it was the other way?
Yeah.
I never got that ruling, so I was playing under the impression that once it was over there, it's over there. So he ended up Son of Godding my Hopper early on in the game, and it potentially influenced the game a little bit because it gave him a chance to potentially soldier out. And in doing so, he played more conservative on a turn instead of, had he had a soul out there, maybe he just goes ahead and draws. But he was able to hide a couple souls on shield triggers, and I ended the game sitting on Son of God's Second Coming and lost 5-3. So, and I would have had a block at the end, but Daniel being able to negate New Testament enhancements along with all the other stuff he hits really hurt me because I didn't have a way to play and get to something where my characters and my enhancements wouldn't be negated. I had Golgotha out there, so the first one was going to be CBP, but not the one that I would play afterwards. So he just had a band I couldn't answer at the end, and I ended the game losing 5-3, sitting on Son of God and Second Coming, and him having no souls, which is really unfortunate considering the turn before I thought I would be able to get by at least one more block. So I leaned in and allowed him to do a couple. Actually, I guess it was 2 turns before that shield triggers. One thing that I did notice in the game, and we were talking through it a little bit, and just naturally as you talk with your opponent, and not I wasn't being super competitive to where I was trying to lock in, hey, let me do my line of play. But I had created a token with Harvest, and he used shield to put it away, and I didn't have any way to negate shield that I thought of. I couldn't get to my woes, but I was sitting on the resurrection. I had it in my hand. I played resurrection, and I brought Lazarus in to negate evil cards, and because of the default targeting rule change, he negates shield, which put the token back, and he didn't have a block, or a good block at least. So I was able to get that rescue.
So I actually I could be wrong on this, but I think when a token fizzles, it can't come back.
Why
even
is
if
that?
you negate it. Once you bounce some kind of token, I don't think it can
It ceases
come
to
back.
exist, but if you negate the thing that removed it from play, how would it not be put back in play?
I mean, like I said, I could be. I feel like I've seen that or heard that somewhere that once they fizzle, they can't come back.
We'll do it like this because I believe that at some point I was under that impression, and then I guess I got straightened out to where I don't think that is the case, but I could be wrong. We'll just leave this here. We won't try to figure it out. Somebody will listen to this podcast and then they can tell us where we were right or wrong. You know, back to that gray area. Are we on the good and the narrow, or are we following our folly over here? Somebody let us know. But I ended up losing 5-3 to Luke in a very back and forth competitive game. Like I thought it was a good game. He just was able to get that turn of soldier out while I was sitting on the free ones, and that ended up being the difference. So that's how it went for me. I guess technically I'm not out of contention for the Lackey Grand Prix Top Cut, but I know that I'm not going to win the rest of them, so I'm pretty much eliminated from Top Cut. But I am not on the second little graphic that shows the standings. I am still on the first half, so I feel good. Brad, unfortunately, you are on the second half because you're -3 soul differential. I'm only -2. So thankfully, I made the 1-page cutoff.
Yeah.
I will say that I am stoked about the fact that like all 17 games got their games in. They were on time, no hiccups. And I mean, when we talk about the power rankings, there's the fact that Jeremy's here at number one, or tied for number one. He got the 3, obviously, victory points for winning, and he was +4 soul differential. Joe Mama's there, the Guardian. But then check this out. Here's Gamer Dad 80, which is Robin Dermo. Okay, here's Red Wing, Jacob. There's Emmanuel, Maxwell Hopebringer, Demon Hunter, Smitty Seven Eyes, Jailer. So there's a few names here that Kevin the Dude, Luke Marshall, See the Trieger the Wise, Alex Oliar. So that's all the people that won. Okay. But there's some names in there you probably wouldn't have expected to see with such a high like soul differential. Like Robin Dermo, love you, bro, but +4 soul differential. Like I did not expect to see that. So it's kind of cool to see having the opportunity in a bigger tournament field, some people to show up and be able to have cool finishes like that. And it'd be interesting to see how the pairings go this week. I'm paired up with Jared Strauss, so I'm not really sure what to expect that he will play. Like it could be anything. And he's probably expecting that I'm going to play blue, and he might be right, but whatever. So who's your matchup for this coming week?
I'll be matched up against Babuni Tim, so not exactly a...
Welcome to the jungle, baby. We got fun in games.
Not exactly an easy matchup. But, you know, I was actually excited to match up against him because, I don't know, there's some people that that even if I feel like they play better than me or have better decks than me, like...
Even if you get beat, you feel like you have an enjoyable experience.
Yeah.
Kind of like when Jaden beats me every time.
Yeah. It's going to be, like, I'm going to enjoy the game. You know, if I was playing Jared, that'd be another one that I would be excited to get, you know. So initially they said that we were supposed to be paired or could be paired based on how we signed in. And me and Jared were, like, paired at first before they did the random. And I was like, man, that's going to be cool. Like, I hadn't played him in a while. It'd be fun to play him. But it was good. I hadn't played Rob in a while either, so I was excited to play him as well. So, I don't know. I guess that's just how it is. There's a lot of people that I would look forward to playing.
Yeah. I'm definitely excited about the larger tournament field and potentially linking up with some of those people that you wouldn't normally get to play against. Especially for me, like, I don't play in the Lackey Grand Prix all that often. So I don't play against even the regulars in the Lackey Grand Prix, but it seems like we pulled a lot of the people that are like me that don't play often in for this one because of the prize support and things. And I'm not necessarily in it for the prize support. It was just they mentioned wanting to try to make it the biggest one, and if I have time to fit the games in, it seems silly for me not to be involved in trying to break the glass ceiling, so to speak. But I definitely enjoy the fact that deck lists are being shared, and you can go and see the deck lists that have been shared for week 1 under articles on Land of Redemption. Babuni Tim has arranged those. There's a download where you can download the text file to import into Lackey if you want to grab and rip that deck and see how it plays. doing some goldfish and things, or if you want to play it in the next round, who knows? However you want to use that, all of that has been made accessible, and I think that's really cool for the community. And I really like that we found a way to not only request people to do that, but incentivize them by giving away some packs out of that box that's being donated for this Lackey Grand Prix. So I think that's good for the game moving forward. Now, when it comes to official tournaments, and these are the things that are going to carry the most weight with the power rankings that we've talked about and we've been doing for the last few episodes. This coming, I say this coming week, in 2 weeks when we record again, we're going to have our first regional tournament, I believe the first regional tournament of the calendar year, and that is going to be the Northwest Regional, hosted by Chad France, Luke Taylor, I believe is his name, and Mike Lasky. And it's going to be in Bend, Oregon, I believe is where it's at. But they will be having that regional, so we'll get results from that. We're also going to have at least, I believe it's 2 state tournaments, if not 3, including, Brad, our first ever. You and me, I guess, technically, even though I put my name on it. But you have the facilities. I sent the information to Rob. But together, we're going to be hosting our first ever state tournament for us. Good. It's going to be Alabama State Tournament on the 19th and 20th. And I'm really excited about that. But in all of that, we're going to get to see, there's going to be some competitive players. I don't know if Babuni Tim is going to the regional in Oregon, but I know that Tyler is going. Mr. Hiatus, Tyler Talks, he'll be there. Chad France, possibly Babuni Tim. And then they've got some players in that play group that are pretty good there. Luke Taylor from the results from the last few years for those Pacific Northwest tournaments. Those are, he's pretty good. I think he is with Mike Lasky in Idaho, I believe. Which state is shaped like a gun? Is that Idaho? I'm sorry, guys.
Oklahoma.
I'm sorry, guys. It's not Oklahoma. I believe they're from Idaho, but I don't want to. I don't know if they're vandals or not. I'm sorry, guys. I spoke out of pocket. But anyway, for all accounts, there's some good players in that area. So we'll get those results. We'll have a couple of state tournaments. At least at our state tournament, we're going to get to see Jeremy beat everybody. So we'll get that. I don't foresee any upsets for him coming to the state tournament here, but looking forward to that. And then we'll be able to have more data for the power rankings for next time on the episode. But for this time, I guess we can go ahead. Brad, you got your list. You ready to hit it? This week's power ranking. That's right. This week's power rankings. And there's something oddly familiar about these power rankings, but we won't give it away until we get to the end. But starting in 10th place, like we always do, holding it down, is the man that lives in his own jungle. He is an ape of one out of one, Babuni Tim.
He will be my opponent. If I beat him, I'm taking the 10th place spot. That's all I'm saying.
I don't know if that's enough to get you there.
That's how it works, right?
To be the man, you got to beat the man. That's all I know.
Well, yeah, so like if I beat him and Rob beat me, it'll be like a love triangle, I guess. No. Moving on. Coming in 9th place, we got your very own built-in joke, Joe Mama.
Joe Mama. Not my mama, but Joe Mama.
Joe Mama.
That's in 9th. Now, number 8, with a chance to really ascend this list, coming off of a hot Kentucky State tournament. That's kind of what put him on the map for our power rankings. But we just talked about him traveling to the Northwest to take on the first regional of the calendar year, and that is Mr. Tyler Stevens.
Coming in at 7th. We're not going to fault him too much for losing to Ash Kelon. He got Ash killed on, I don't know where I was going with that. But he didn't play with a hand, so how could you fault him?
Stick to the jokes that the dad bot gives you. Dad joke bot gives you.
Dad jokes. I do love to tell dad jokes. Occasionally he laughs. So, oh, coming hard
Coming in hot.
from left field.
You know, I kind of like anti-jokes. I'm a bigger fan of anti-jokes than dad jokes. But some of those are not appropriate.
Not for the. We'll create our own podcast. It's going to be called Confessions and
Confessions Part 2.
Part 2. It'll be all anti-jokes. But anyways, 7th place, Jay Chambers. Congratulations.
All right.
Keeping it down.
And in number 6, we've got the man from the plain state of Texas, Ager the Wise. Congratulations, Ager. You're still right here.
His life will never be the same. You know why?
Why?
Not a joke, but they had a big eclipse today. So, you know.
Oh, see, I thought you were going to go. I thought you were going to actually say a joke. That's an anti-joke,
Hey,
I guess.
you never know with me. I mean, maybe it's a joke, maybe it's not. So it's the anticipation.
Well, it's actually just the fact that your internet's working. That's good, because last week that was your joke.
That was definitely the joke. It's like you'd be talking, I'd be out. 5 minutes later, I'm coming back in. You're still talking. I'm like,
Yeah.
I didn't get into that. I just picked right in. Number 5, we have See the Tree, Mr. Oregon himself coming in mediocre. Number 5.
See the tree.
Mediocre.
A chance for him to ascend the list or fall.
Yeah.
In the 4th slot, we've got the better chamber. We've got Jeremy Chambers. I'm sorry, Jay. I mean, it's going to take a lot for Jay to shake that reputation now. Jeremy has, he's got a tight grip on the better chamber brother reputation.
Well, since they said they both like wrestling and stuff, is there like a brother combo that one's better than the other?
It's kind of like Kane and
WrestleMania.
Undertaker, maybe.
Yeah.
It could be.
Well, who's better?
Although, well, I like Kane better, to be honest. Undertaker's really cool too. But it could be like the trash that was WrestleMania, and I don't care if anyone wants to argue with me, but WrestleMania is such trash. Like, professional wrestling is such a trash product right now between AEW and WWE. Like, the fact that Shawn Michaels built an entire career off of his finishing move being Sweet Chin Music, super kick. Jimmy and Jey Uso were brothers, and they were fighting each other at WrestleMania like 2 days ago. And they just kept super kicking each, like, just, they're not even selling the moves. Like, it's like, I don't want to admit something to some young listener out there. So if you're a young listener listening to the podcast and you believe in the eternal hope that springs from professional wrestling, turn the podcast off now. Okay.
Don't turn it off. Fast forward 5 minutes.
Okay. Now that they're
3
gone,
minutes.
and, you know, Jay and Jeremy might be those clinging to eternal hope of wrestling, but we all know that it's staged, right? We can agree.
Of course.
And I hate people that say wrestling's fake. Yes, we know that, but you go to a movie and you pay and you order popcorn, you go sit down to watch something that is fake, but you don't want the actors to tell you it's fake with their performance, right?
Mm-hmm.
So wrestling is at a junction right now to where, even though we know what it is, we know the product, you're not pulling the wool over anybody's eyes. Well, we want to see stories and things if you are a wrestling fan. I'm not even that big of a wrestling fan anymore. I used to be. The product's just trash. Like, and I mean like trash, bro. It's so awful. Like, there's no redeeming qualities for it. Like Cody winning the title, sure, but they botched last year. He should have won it last year. So he had to go through a whole nother year of the same kind of storylines of, will he finish his story? Like, it's just so played out and tired. And they've got The Rock coming back pretending to wrestle. He's the final boss. Terrible. Just terrible. Like, it's awful. And I get that we all know it's fake, but don't tell me it's fake because your athletes are not selling the moves. Like, I want a dude to get kicked in the face and be down for a minute. These dudes are getting kicked in the face and then they're standing up, kicking the opponent right back in the face and going back and forth like 3 or 4 times in a row. Like, does it not hurt? Can you pretend it hurts a little bit? Like, again, I know it's fake, but you're supposed to try to not tell me it's fake with the way that you're portraying your character within this. So I'll step off the soapbox, but Wrestling is trash.
If we have a moment on the podcast, could you just tell us how you really feel about wrestling?
I could. Man, we need to have a whole episode dedicated to what would fix wrestling in today's modern age. Like, what do you do? And I think the first thing would probably be to take the super kick and make it a not just standard move. Make it go back to being a finisher type move. But I digress. We'll get off of that. So Jeremy Chambers is in the 4th slot, and that brings us to the top 3.
Coming in, number 3, on the podium. There's a podium now. Top 3, of course.
It's sponsored by Covenant Games.
who has recently sent in a fraudulent
What? You're gonna get our sponsorship pulled. You can't make jokes like that, bro. It's too soon. You're out of pocket. Put it back in your pocket.
Rewind.
Speaking of, wrestling sucks. Okay, now.
All right, there we go. Coming in at number 3, not a joke. He is Mr. Funny Man himself, the Jailer.
Okay. Number 2, Justin Alstead, which means number 1 is still Brian Jones, who is the only person that I know that sent me any type of results. He had 2 districts this past week, and he won both of them. So I said there was something eerily familiar about this list of rankings, and that's because we told you we were going to honor the data, right? We told people that.
We told them.
If there is no data for us to go off of, not enough to move anybody, then we have to just kind of stick with where we're at. So we will be updating the rankings by putting updated and the date on Wednesday, but there will be no change. So if you are playing in tournaments, if you're playing in a local, a district, anything, and you want to get credit for that to see if it moves the scale, tips it in your favor or whatever for... Now don't be that guy that only shares, hey, I won first place. But if you didn't place, you're like, nah, we didn't have a tournament, bro. Like, we didn't do nothing. But if we don't have results to go off of, we don't have results to go off of. So we were limited by that this week. But again, we've got the first regional and at least 2 state tournaments, if not 3, coming up. We'll have plenty of opportunity for some moving and shaking within the lineup of the top 10 for the power rankings. So I believe, Brad, that covers basically everything that we set out to cover for the podcast. And that brings us to kind of, switching gears, and we're going to stick with the dominance first, because we could say that we're going to do the dominant discussion as an honor for spotlighting the fact that this was a conversation that was started by Ager the Wise. He made a video giving his reasoning for the tiers that he put dominance into. And so we just kind of want to continue that conversation or share our piece with it. But when it comes to doing the Lost Soul discussion like we were going to do, my idea was not as cool as this. And I think doing a full scale, like creating kind of a template like he did for the dominance will work better. So we'll aim to do that on a future episode, possibly even the next episode. But we'll do dominance just to kind of, jump into the conversation that was already started or ignited by Ager the Wise sharing that, kind of give our thoughts. So the way that we're going to do this is, Brad, I'll call out a dominant from the list. You'll tell me what tier it goes in. If I think you're completely wrong, I can tell you you're completely wrong and try to reason with you to change it. But at the end of the day, you're the decision maker on the ones that you get. I'm the decision maker on the ones, so that it's us coming together as a podcast, as co-host of the podcast, and giving what our thoughts are on the tiers. So, Brad, I'm going to, I'll work on putting these in the tiers as we talk about them. But let me go ahead and give you the easiest one of all. Let me give you, where is it? There's a specific one I want to give you first to start with. Not the Holy Spirit. Where is it? Blinding Light. What tier do you put Blinding Light in? That's a way to start. No hard thinking.
I don't even. If I don't know what the dominant does,
It converts your paw to Saul.
is that the one that people tried to convert Priest of Zeus?
Yes, and then he sits in your area protected.
Yeah, no, that's still gonna be in last.
So
No
D tier.
reason to waste a dom slot on that.
Okay, all right. You pick one out and tell me.
All right, what about the gods of Egypt?
Gods of Egypt. I'm going to have to. I'll admit, I'm going to have to.
Not so easy, huh?
Well, just you don't see the ability in these pictures that we're using on this template from Ager, but you may discard the top X cards of a deck regardless of protect abilities, and X is the number of your evil Egyptians. So you have to be in a certain defense. This is regardless of protect abilities. You get to hit potentially 5 cards. So it's good if Egyptians were good. And I haven't tried to build them out of IR yet, but I haven't seen other people trying to build them that much either, which tells me that they are not that they're not good, but they aren't good enough on paper to make people want to research and figure them out, right? Is that fair?
Yeah.
So I think with that and knowing that, I'm willing to put this in. Well, okay, it comes down to this. You said earlier, deck discard is not as good as hand discard. So with that, this being okay, what do you think about C? Or do you think it should be bumped up to B? Like, it's really good if you get to do it, but the defense you have to play in, I think, is... Now, you don't have to have Unity to play it. You just have to get 5, you're going to have 5 evil Egyptians. And I don't think there's any way to create evil Egyptian tokens currently. So it seems like you have to play a dedicated deck, and it just, to me personally, it feels bad.
Yeah, I mean, if you're talking,
I get Plague of Hail without a dominant, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Now,
yeah,
if you play them both, you get to discard 10 cards. That's 20% of their deck. Now we might be talking. But as a standalone card, I think I'm feeling C.
Okay, I'll agree. I was gonna say D, but I'll meet you at C.
Yeah, I definitely don't think it's D because there's far worse dominance. So I'm gonna go ahead and give you one that the community is going to enjoy hearing your reasoning. But I'm going with Buckler for you. Good old Buckler, the dominant.
So I've not played with Buckler yet. But I do intend to change that because take a good warrior or weapon from deck, protect equip heroes from evil cards this turn. One big thing that's out there right now is Herod's Temple. So what I was thinking about with this card is if you could play spears on somebody coming in with them, even if they toss Herod's Temple and they're protected or whatever, then you can negate and decrease that character still because it's played when it comes into battle. Your character's protected, so now you're negating their character and potentially just winning by the numbers, depending on who you have in there, which would be pretty cool. Even if you're like in a big band, for instance, and they come in with Herod Agrippa, something like that. But pretty much everybody's playing Deceiver or some kind of character like that. So I really like it, but for that reason, like for a card like Spears. But as far as the rankings go, I like it where it's at. I like it in the B. I think it's good. It can be really good, but it's not. Warriors aren't really like high right now.
It's also, you have to keep in mind, warriors it's not limited to humans.
Yeah.
So you do get the chance to pull an angel. You can pull Gabriel. You can pull Chief Prince. You could pull several different angels that could be impactful. You could pull out, what's the one? Crud. Old Testament angel.
Captain of the Host?
Yes, there you go. Captain of the Host. It was slipping my mind. But so it could be good in the right sense. It also, as a dominant, could in a pinch get you an interrupt or a negate, because there's weapons that interrupt draw 2 play, or interrupt or negate an evil card, draw 2, that type of thing. So there's an opportunity for it to be good. But I think B is about accurate. All right, so what are you going to give me? What's the damage here?
So you hit me with a buckler. Why don't I hit you with a 40 years?
40 years. Okay, now if I get this one wrong, people are going to be upset. 40 years, the potential to change the game. I think you having to be in Wilderness for Unity does hurt its overall, but Wilderness has not proven to be a defense that can't get blocks. So I don't think it's too much of a problem to be in Wilderness defense. And I think that's where you're going to see it used mostly, because obviously you can use it with Wilderness offense Unity as well. But I think if people are going to splash this, they're more going to splash and play Wilderness defense to do it, so that they can play whatever offense they want to. But it is impactful. It does give kind of a new way to reset the game. Let's see. Where did he have this ranked at? I'm thinking he had it as a B. Yeah. See, I was thinking B, but I was also thinking with the right type of mind, someone like Jared, for example. Like, this card becomes, like, it jumps a tier or two when it's in the hands of like somebody creatively building a deck to use it. You know what I mean? I personally think it might. I'm going to leave it as a B, because I remember the one thing that I didn't like about it when I played it was it's not regardless of protect abilities.
Yep.
And it can't really be regardless of protect abilities, because it's granting protection to the one that doesn't get underdecked.
Mm-hmm.
But your opponent can stymie it by just having Herod's Temple out or having Color Guard out. All kinds of things that really affect its ability to go off. So you have to work through those things. So for that, I will leave it at B. That is about the right call, I think.
See, I would drop it to C.
You would drop it for that for that reason?
Yeah, I mean, I just there's too much out there that can hinder this. Like, when you have a dominant, you pretty much like, I need this to work, right? This, to me, there's so much that can make it not work. It's so situational. Like, if you get off to a hot start, you're obviously not going to do it. If your opponent gets off to a hot start, they probably got protection all around. I just don't like it.
Okay, you've talked me into it. It's C. I'm okay with it being at C, because I remember when I built that Wilderness deck based off of one of Tyler's lists, I remember having that card in my hand and not being able to use it, because it would only hurt me. It wouldn't hurt the opponent. So yeah, I definitely, and I know that you're a little bit more strict on, you want a dominant to do something all the time. You don't like to have like a dominant ever be a dead card, but this feels like it has the higher potential than average to be a dead card.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess with that, you giving me one of these cards that have like a fringe, you have to know how to play around it. So I'm going to give you one kind of like that. I'm going to give you A New Beginning.
A New Beginning is also one I don't think I've ever played with. But
you've had it played against you plenty.
I have had it played against me. I would actually rank this higher if, so I think Flood Survivors, the offense has kind of just not been playable with as much as else is out there. And that's the only reason why I would, as a dominant, if I'm playing Flood Survivors, I think it's a A or maybe a A+. But due to the limited nature of having to have the Unity, I think it's Unity Flood Survivors, right?
Yep.
That's not really like a playable offense anymore at the moment. So I think it's fine where it's at. But in its heyday, that card could flip a game really quick. So that's the only reason why I would keep it down.
So you're sticking with C. Okay.
In the current meta, yeah, it's a C.
Yeah, I can't argue otherwise.
A couple years ago, it was It was way up there.
Yeah. So you're looking more strictly off of when you say keeping it in the same place. I'm having to refer back. I'm building us a new list of our own as we go.
Gotcha.
So C is probably where I would have put it anyway, if not for Rossetti being a thing a couple of years ago and that always being a potential deck people could try to bring back. I would see it even farther down, like into the bottom category.
Mm-hmm.
But I also don't want to disrespect it by putting it beside Blinding Light. Like Blinding Light probably needs its own category. Like, because it's meh.
Well, you say that, but now I'm gonna hit you with how about Guardians of Your Soul? The old one.
Okay, can we be more? Can we? Here's what I want to do. I want to take it and I want to put it in the D category. I don't know where Ager the Wise had it when he did his list.
Yeah.
Oh, he had it in D. Okay, it is definitely a D category card. The new one, let's we all agree it's D. Nobody argue with me because you're wrong. Right now in the current game, like that card is trash, bro. Like it's trash. It's cool looking, but when you get down to that ability box and read what it does and its impact on the game, it's trash. But we know we're getting a new Guardian of Your Souls. So let's just, for the talking point of it, where would you put the new Guardian of Your Souls? Because I'm telling you where I'd put it. I would put the new one, which protects from convertibilities and things like that. I think I would put it in the A category. Maybe A plus, but I just think that there's the opportunity for people to build decks to where it becomes kind of like we talked about with 40 years, to where it can potentially be a deck card, but obviously it's going to be a not as often as 40 years, not to that extreme. But I think the new Guardian of Your Souls for me would be an A card.
Yeah, I think it's at least an A.
I think it has potential to be higher.
Yeah.
But I think that's where I would put it without any play testing. So that's a talking point. So I'll give you the D for the current one and the new one in the A category. So let me ask you about Grapes of Wrath. Because I like Grapes of Wrath a lot, and it can work offense and defense. Mm-hmm. It's got a lot of things working in its favor, so I'm curious where you settle on that.
I think Grapes of Wrath to me is an A. I don't know that I would move it up or down. It's too good to move down. It hasn't been proven enough for me to move it up. It could.
When you say proven enough, what are you explicitly looking for?
I don't see people play it, and the times they do play it, I don't think it's really swung a game enough to really, like when I think of the top three categories, I'm looking at cards that are gonna work the way they were intended to make a big impact on the game, and that can be that a lot of people play them, kind of thing. That's kind of more my standard. Grapes of Wrath, I really like the card too, and I think it has a lot of potential. I just don't see it. So that's why I wouldn't move it up.
Okay. I kind of get where you're coming from, but I also think Grapes of Wrath suffers from what is usually called opportunity cost. And by that, what I mean is it's the cost of the opportunity of playing a different dominant. And I think that's where it usually falls out. So with your deck, your average deck of 50 cards, you're going to get 7 dominant slots. And of those 7 dominant slots is Grapes of Wrath one. And I think a lot of times just the opportunity cost of, I'd rather take this out so I can play a Mayhem, or I'd like to take this out so I can play Crowd's Choice. It's just one of those that's on the fringe line and falls out of favor for other dominants that are equally ranked or higher ranked. So I don't think it's a bad card in any sense. I think it will always give you an option to win a battle. Now, if I'm holding this dominant that will potentially get me an auto block by the cost of my evil character, or I have an enhancement in my hand. The enhancement might win you the battle and the dominant not be needed, and that dominant could be something else in your hand. So I think opportunity cost is where it suffers. It's just not good enough to always be in your deck. It's not a staple like that. And I think it's appropriately ranked right there in the A range.
Yeah, I think one thing that hinders it too is like a lot of the Herod defense. They're protected from DOMs.
Yeah.
So if you can't discard, you can't use it. It just, I don't know. There's just certain defenses that it wouldn't be good against. Even like a Nero or something.
That's a valid point. I wasn't necessarily thinking about that, but that's another angle to look at why it doesn't get played more.
Okay. Let's move on. How about Angel of God?
Angel of God, the new Wilderness card.
Yeah.
This guy is not Wilderness. So you can convert it and add it to battle in an Angel deck, and it just gives you a silver card to play an enhancement on. But otherwise, you have to have at least one Wilderness hero for it to negate an evil card, because it doesn't trigger on itself being converted to a hero. That's what I wanted to double check. So you can't just play it in any deck and it comes in and negates at least one evil card. I think if it had done that, then it shoots up the list a little bit. As it is, I think it's a matter of how much you're willing to invest into the theme that it's built for. And I think that's going to be a common theme with a lot of these dominants is, like, it's hard to invest in a New Beginnings theme because Flood is just not up to snuff with what is going on in the current meta. But Wilderness is, so I think it's at least a B for me. And it depends on how we're looking at decks and being built around the theme of Wilderness, and it could potentially go higher if I believed in Wilderness more than I do. I just haven't played it enough to believe in it a lot. So I feel like it's a B.
I agree. It's B.
Okay. And where was it on Ager's list?
He had it as a C.
As a C. Okay. I think it's better than a C.
Yeah, I think so too.
So
yeah. The add to battle part, like you said. I mean, that's in and of itself.
Like, even if you're just playing angels and maybe you're running a 57 angel, you could throw it in just for battle extension automatically, and then play an enhancement from your hand.
And it's easily, I wouldn't say easily, but it potentially is easily bounced. Because it's for one turn, which I think would go back, fizzle on your opponent's upkeep, because that would be where the turn is. Because it doesn't say round, it says turn. But you could bounce it in your discard phase with an enhancement or something, get it right back.
Yeah. I also would like to shout out the fact that the artwork and it being a foil promo for Nationals, all cool things that it brought to the game. So just for that, I'll also, let that influence me, making it a B over a C that Ager had. Not that he's wrong, like everybody has their own opinion, but I think the potential's there for it to be a solid card. Kind of like Buckler, like it can be solid in the right deck.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we're looking at Doubt now. I will give you Doubt. And the reason I'm doing this is because Doubt feels kind of like the same dominant, just for evil, almost.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm just going to extend the battle a little bit with an evil card.
Yeah, I don't see this one played a ton, but when I have, it's done a lot of damage, in my opinion. I would almost, I would be tempted to put it in the A range.
You're tempted, or you're doing that? Like, it's your choice.
It feels like a B, but I want to put it in an A.
I will say that the argument that I gave you for Grapes of Wrath, I feel like this is another one that's going to suffer from opportunity cost. Like, there's better dominance you would rather play. But I do think that you can use Doubt to win a battle that you wouldn't otherwise win. And then that can completely throw the game in your favor So it has definite like game implications if it works. But if you have a strong defense to where you never need that,
it just doesn't work against honeypot. So
Yeah.
that's the problem.
I was gonna say like you could throw it
Stuff like that.
down. Like it feels bad if you throw it down. Okay, so the exact wording here. Let's see. Convert this card to a character for 1 round. You may add it to battle. So you could play this even while you're blocking, just to restrict dominance, negate heroes, and toss all multi-brigade enhancements. And I think if people played it that way a little bit more, like that's almost kind of like the glory play right now, Glory of the Lord. People are like, oh, you can't play an enhancement on your lone hero unless it's a lone priest or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So it's such a good card because it stops so many things. Well, if you have your big band out there, for example, let's just say you have your big band of Herod, or somehow you have a band of Herod. You have like Philip. What is it? No, it's guard, and then he can exchange to Philip. Philip can band to a protected guy. So you end up with 2 characters in battle, one of them protected. You drop this down to negate heroes, restrict dominance, and toss multi-brigade cards. Not terrible. I think that there's not a lot of uses where I've seen it to where people play it before they need to add to battle to try to extend the battle. And so it doesn't, if you're tossing down and you play this and now it's the only character in battle, it's easier to toss down a 12 if that's the only thing in battle. But if you have 2 or 3 characters strung together and then you throw it down to add another character and toss all multi-brigade, they're probably not tossing that dude down or all of you guys down. So
it's hard to plan for him if somebody has him.
yes, like I don't know where I would put this, but you think an A?
I think it's an A because, like I said, the top 3 to me are like where it's at. This is like category 4. Like, I'm probably not playing it, but it's pretty darn good.
If you were making a decision in your deck to play Grapes or It, which one are you playing? Because they can kind of do the same thing. I can put my evil character out, discard him or whatever, and shuffle everybody else with Grapes. Use it defensively. You could also wait and play this dominant to extend the battle so it doesn't cost you a character, but I almost feel like the versatility, be able to use it both ways if you want. Great. I would always play Grapes over It, I think, if I was looking for a battle dominant in the same kind of niche spot.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on, like, does your deck want more offense or defense? If you're trying to, like, compensate.
Well, that's what I'm
for
saying.
some
Like,
defense,
Grapes can help you on both ways.
It could, but it's not as good on defense as Doubt is, in my opinion. Like, as a defensive dominant.
You don't think making them start an entirely new battle after they've pushed all their guys into battle with their resurrection play or whatever?
Well, with
it seems like what you would get to follow up that would be less advantageous than.
Let me look back at Grapes. So first off, you gotta count on them not having a protected hero.
Mm-hmm.
So if they're protected, then this isn't going to do anything. Now what it could do is if they don't have a hero in battle and they do have, and they have soul advantage, redeem soul advantage, then that's a really good play because then they can't start a new battle.
Yep.
But they could always add to battle with a different card,
like Good Seed or something. Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, like you said, if I'm choosing out of the 2, I'm picking Grapes. If you're just like randomly saying, hey, which one? I'm picking Grapes.
So, but you think it's still on that level of thought?
But I think I still think it's on that level.
Okay. I'm not gonna.
If you're going for defense,
I'm not gonna knock you while you're making a decision. That's okay. I would probably feel more comfortable with it in the B tier, but that's also probably by my limited experience with it as a card. Like, I've only played it like once in a deck, and I didn't like the way that I felt like I could add defensive cards in my deck and free up the dominant slot. And again, it comes down to that opportunity cost. Like, running this dominant hurt me versus being able to play a different dominant.
Well, now that Murder's Command and Warrior Overtaken are a thing, it's hard to argue having doubt in your deck over one of them.
Yeah, I wasn't gonna say anything. I didn't want to forecast where you might put those cards and things. So, do you want to leave it a day, or you want to?
Yeah, I'm still leaving it today.
Oh, okay.
I think it's an A, but like I said, it's not a top 3 tier. Top 3 tiers is the tiers that I would look at something and say these cards are really good.
Okay.
Like they're really good dominants. That's not a really good dominant, but if somebody's playing doubt, it's gonna throw your deck off.
Yeah.
I think.
All right. What do you got for me?
Let's just stick with that. Murder's Command and Warrior Overtaken. Let's throw them both in there.
Oh, you want me to two-piece them?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't feel like they would go on different tiers.
I could see them being in different tiers because it depends. I think the tier is going to depend on what it gains you for a benefit. So base level, I think both of these cards are at least Bs. Right? I think just the ability to potentially extend the battle, the potential ability to go and search out an evil character, and then so Murderous Command to me feels like it's more versatile in more decks because you can go and get Amalekite Slave, being Egyptian. You can go and get Pharaoh's Daughter. You can go and get Foreign Wives. So it feels like it targets more things to go. And Amalekite Slave, if they're not negating that gets you to any evil character in your deck, basically. Or it might be just humans, but you know what I'm saying? It seems like the targets of them vary a little bit. But then also, how good is Herdsman in the current meta? You have to weigh that. And I think Herdsman will always make Warrior Overtaken be strong as long as, it goes hand in hand. If people are playing Matthew and Herdsman is strong in the meta, then the dominant to go and get him is going to be strong.
But like you just said, Amalekite Slave can go and get Herdsman too. So
right. So I think
it could also go and get Foreign Wives, but Warrior Overtaken could go get Goliath. So
yeah,
there's a lot.
But you could get Goliath with Amalekite Slave.
It's true.
So as long as they're not negating, but there's the potential that they're negating evil characters, or preventing or whatever, and so Amalekite Slave doesn't get you to anything. So then you're relegated to the options of what then can you bring out that's CBN or CBP?
Foreign Wives.
Foreign Wives, yes, if they've drawn. But Amalekite Slave doesn't. It's not the great thing that it is if they're preventing characters.
Yeah.
With Warrior Overtaken, you always have the opportunity to go and get Goliath. That's going to push their guys out of battle, negate and play and draw abilities. I think we're splitting hairs to argue. It's almost like we're arguing semantics a hair. But I think that Warrior Overtaken an A. And then I think I'm willing to do Warrior Overtaken as an A, Murderous Command, just because a lot of times you are going to get that Amalekite Slave to search into anything, or you can go straight to Foreign Wives. I think I would give Murderous Command a slight edge currently, and that really hurts because I'm a Philistine guy. But that's where I'm thinking that they're at. What do you think?
They're both an A, or one's an A plus?
No, Murderous Command is A plus, and I've got A for Warrior Overtaken.
I would put them. I could agree with that, and I would stick with that. But I would put them both at A plus if it were me.
You think so?
Yeah.
I do like Philistines, and I think Philistines are stronger against the meta than people have shown so far. So I could see that. They come in with a big Daniel band, right? Big Daniel band. Gonna beat you. I lost to Luke Marshall on a Daniel band. I can play Warrior Overtaken and get Goliath, and unless they're protected, which I don't think anybody in the band protects unless they've got the three, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, Or, well, I won't use the joke that they say around here in the southern states. But you have, I think one of those grants protection to Daniel or whatever. So I don't know how the interaction with Goliath there works, but what Luke was doing going Michael Chief Prince to Daniel. So that would all get pushed back with Goliath, right? So I don't know, dude. It's like if you told me to put them both in A+, I'd be okay with that. But I do think that there's more deck versatility out of Murderous Command right now. So I think I'm going to leave it where it's at.
Okay.
Because the people that were saying Warrior Overtaking can be gotten with the Amalekite Slave play and still leaves you. So you get more options with that one that also include the options of the other one. So I think I would leave it there.
Okay.
All right, so let me give you Chariot of Fire, and obviously the big one, Son of God. I'll give you that, and you tell me where they go.
So I would obviously put Son of God S+.
Is it the best card in the game?
Yeah, I mean, why not?
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I just
Son of God, absolutely. I'm putting Chariot of Fire though. I'm putting it probably at a B.
A B?
In my opinion, a B.
Okay. I think I'm okay with that. That seems fair. I would say in a world without Son of God, it would be obviously much higher. But as Son of God exists, it obviously is several tiers below that in its ability. Although I do like the ability to extend the battle and potentially at the cost of the free soul, obviously one of your profits, you getting to extend and win the battle that you would have potentially lost otherwise so that you can keep maintaining the tempo. Son of God gets you a soul, but it doesn't extend a battle that you would have potentially lost. So that's my thing with liking Chariot of Fire in certain situations, but not enough to ever play it over Son of God in a meaningful tournament.
Yeah.
So have to keep that in mind. I guess it's your turn to pick for me. I'll let you do that.
So how about Three Woes and Crowd's Choice?
You gonna make it hard on me like that? Okay, so Three Woes I think is default targeting makes it fantastic. Like it's a negate. It can win you a battle that you would have lost because it can negate something after you've had a character removed. There's just no substitute for it in a deck. So if you're playing Redemption, you've got this in your deck. Like the $25 version came out in the fundraiser. Everybody should have access to it. I don't see any way that it's not in every deck. It's S+ to me. It's on par with Son of God. If you're going to find a competitive player, they're going to have both of them in their deck. No ifs, ands, or buts. Now, Crowd's Choice. Crowd's Choice is one that I see decks built without it all of the time, but the decks that have it can use it in a tight spot, and it helps them get their deck online for doing whatever their strategy is that they're trying to do. So I think it's S tier. I think that's where he had it, and I believe it's there. I think it's a step below S+ tier. It's not in every deck, but it could be in every deck. It's one of those that a lot of times it comes out for a dominant that you feel like you need and you can't sacrifice to have. You can't sacrifice the power of the other dominant for the consistency of Crowd's Choice. So I've got those two. Now I will give you.
Well, hold on. I won't defend myself, but I will say I agree with Three Woes at S+. I would also put Crowd's Choice at S+.
You would put it at S+.
I would put it at S+ because it does exactly what it should do pretty much every time unless you're playing Nazareth. So
that's fair. I can't argue with that. I think the impact of Woes and Son of God is slightly higher than Crowd's Choice, unless Crowd's Choice is going to those cards.
See, so S+ to me means it should be in every deck.
In a world where dominants are limited to 7 per 50, though, I don't know that it necessarily, like, you can say it should go in every deck. I know that it will always benefit a deck to be in there, but some decks are going to need to play an outlier dominant that does more impact for what that deck is trying to accomplish versus the consistency boost of Crowd's Choice.
Yeah, and that's a fair argument.
So that's power versus consistency, and I think that's why I'm a tier below.
For me, it's a S plus. But,
Okay, fair enough.
You know,
All right.
we'll keep it at S since that was yours.
Let me give you Mayhem and Chronicles of the Kings. Getting tough now.
Yeah, Mayhem, I'm putting at an A. I don't think it's in the top 3. I think that a lot of decks can benefit from it, but I think I'm okay with never playing it. Because of cards.
You're gonna
like
make some
Crowd
enemies
Choice.
on this. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I put it in some decks, but it's not on my list of like forcing it. I'd have to force it in. You know, it'd be hard to take out some of these other ones.
I feel like there's some old school thoughts from players that, and maybe that's where I picked it up from. Like, Mayhem always does something for you, even if it just turns into a +3 in a tight spot, because you have 3 cards in hand, and you play it, and you get 3 extra cards. It can
but
also,
you don't know what cards you're getting.
Right. So there is a random element of it, but I think it also helps you get out from under a bad opening hand. And there's not a lot of dominants on this list that help you do that. So it fills a very niche kind of spot. But, okay, so you've got that at A. What
Yeah,
about
I mean, I think it's
Chronicles?
still good, but I don't know.
It's
And what
fair.
was the other one?
Chronicles.
Chronicles. I would put that as an A as well. I think that Chronicles doesn't get enough credit for the versatility.
For
I
sure.
think
I agree
people
with
are
that.
too scared of Glory of the Lord. To find Glory of the Lord on turn 1, I don't think is a thing all the time. So if you could pull out your Chronicles and hit their temple artifacts and also play it during battle and get some benefit from that as well, like it's really good. But it's not in top 3 tiers.
Yeah. Okay. That's I can't argue with that. I do like the versatility of it, and it seemed like for a while it was kind of people were playing either that or the one that discards a artifact. Name slipping me right now. Oh my goodness. Destruction of New Houston.
Yeah.
So, like, I think that it enjoyed a lot of like time in the sun early on because people quit playing destruction for it. But then as other dominants have come out and been strong, it's kind of one of those that's really good and usually will always do something for you, especially if you play it preemptively to negate or prevent enhancements in battle. You can do that, and it can impact every game for you, but it's just not as impactful as some of the other cards.
Yeah. I'm going to give you Harvest Time and Burial.
I was going to
The
do that to you
souls.
next time. Okay. Harvest Time, because it will get you out of Soul Drought, and I just lost a game to Soul Drought. I would say that it is a B, because it's always going to do something for you, even if it's just getting your souls on the line. If you're using ongoing abilities to, mess with what the opponent can do. If you've got like the negate banding soul, you can play this to negate banding after they've already banded into battle and not bands that can be interrupted. You could play that to get that soul out to kick that. There's a lot of fringe things you can do with it. It just also helps you not ever lose the game to Soul Drought, which is something that I think is necessary for us to have in the game, so it balances things out. Burial, though, is a step below that for me. Burial can be great because it can get all your souls off the board, but there's so many ways to get souls off the board that's not a dominant cost and forcing you to play meek souls. So I think that forcing what I can play because it only underdecks a soul or any number of meat lost souls. I think I think it's a C for me, because if it was able to be ability souls and I could choose what souls I'm playing and not be hindered before making the decision of that dominant, but I'm having to affect my whole, and you could do Death of Unrighteous with ability souls, for example, and get kind of the same payoff, just not at dominant speed. So I think it's a C for me.
Yeah, I can get by with those.
All right, so I'm going to give you Voice from Heaven and Rubble and Dust. Two
Very
fringe outliers. The same deck might play both of them.
Yeah, Rubble and Dust nowadays is definitely better. It's still hard to use. I think it's in that B category. I don't think it's like an A tier thing. I think it could, even if you use it, I don't think it's gonna make or break a game. Like, it helps, but it's not like, okay, wow, I just did something that's gonna win me the game.
Yeah.
Voice from Heaven's the same way. I think it's I've been playing it here recently just for fun. But I don't know.
You used to play it for fun when I had Flood Survivors.
I just don't know that it's I don't know that you could go to a tournament and seriously, like a big tournament, and say like, hey, I'm planning to try to win this tournament and have that in your deck.
You could plan to do well at the tournament.
Yeah.
But yeah, trying to win, I think there's always going to be a better dominant that could have been in that slot. I get what you're saying there.
Yeah. So I mean, it could go as high as an A, but I think I would put it as a B.
Okay. And what about Voice from Heaven?
Oh, that's the one I was talking about, Voice from Heaven.
Oh, I thought you were talking about Rubble and Dust.
Rubble and Dust I'd put as a B.
So both of these are a B.
Yeah.
Okay. Like, I think Rubble and Dust has more ability now than it's ever had. That's why I mentioned you playing Flood Survivors, because you used to play it waiting for Arc or whatever. But Rubble and Dust, I think, with the place cards, like the demons that place, I think you can make it work in your deck. But yeah, I'm feeling you on that.
Yeah, so essentially, if you're Rubble and Dust on the demons, you're getting rid of your own cards too, because they're probably placing them on yours.
Yeah.
So,
all right, what you got for me?
What about Out of Their Hands and Vain Philosophy?
Okay, I like the contrast here. It's a good contrast. Now, I will tell you that I really like Vain Philosophy, and I'm probably going to be higher on it than a lot of people would be, because I think Vain Philosophy is one of those that experience probably dictates your expectation or what you think reality is of the card. And what I mean by is, if you've been in a tight spot where you've used Vain Philosophy and gotten a card out of the opponent's hand that was going to hurt you, then you probably feel good about that in your deck. And if you've had it in your deck and you've only gotten a decent payoff, you haven't been able to like take that authority of Christ before they play it down, then you could be kind of swayed there. I think Vain Philosophy is, assuming that we know that we've got 3 or 4 tiers above it. I think I would always play Vain Philosophy before I played, for the most part, Buckler, Angel of God, Chariot of Fire, Harvest Time, Voice from Heaven, Rubble and Dust. So I think that moves it up a category for me. So I'm going to put it at A, just because I would play it before any of those B category ones in a general deck, without a specific target in mind of this, I'm trying to combo this off or something. And then I think Out of Their Hands is one that I really like. And I think it's one of those that it's definitely impactful if you get it early. But how impactful is it? It's definitely more impactful to me than, like Flood Survivors having a new beginning, because that has unity and it can't be used otherwise. But this has the unity built into the ability, which I really like that the card designers are doing now. It says, if used by a son of Jacob, versus Unity Sons of Jacob, because now you can play it in a deck that doesn't have multiple Sons of Jacob. You could just play it for the one that you know you can get to early and use it. So I think that it being a little bit more playable in that regard gives it a little bit more playability over something like A New Beginning. I think it's also more impactful, honestly, than 40 Years. And the reason is because if I go turn one, and I would usually in a deck with this try to get it off turn one instead of having a late payoff. I know when they were playtesting, Chris was talking about he likes to whittle the opponent's hand down and then do it at the end. So it's an auto rescue. You can almost get an auto rescue turn one if you take out the one evil character they might have in their hand or access to an evil character. So I'm putting that in the B category, just above those cards in C, because I think it is more impactful than those.
Yeah, I probably would have put both of them in A, but I could do the A and then the B.
Okay, so yeah, again, how many people are going to be playing blue specifically to do that? If more people played blue on a consistent basis, definitely an A. But I'm going to give you some cheese here. I'm going to give you New Jerusalem and the Second Coming.
Second Coming, obviously S plus. That should go in every single deck.
Okay.
New Jerusalem, I would probably put in the C or D category. I don't like that card at all. As far as, I mean, it's. I don't see why somebody would play that over Second Coming. I just don't.
Right. Do you get? I get slightly annoyed every time there's that conversation comes up. Is there a fringe case why you would ever play New Jerusalem over Second Coming? And there's like arguments and things are brought up points to make it maybe so, and I don't ever see it. So C or D, I'm okay with. I think it is better than Guardian of Your Souls and Blinding Light. So let's. You said C or D. You didn't give a definite. I would lean C.
All right, let's go C.
Okay. All right.
All right, so I'm going to give you the Resurrection and Ride On Victoriously and Awesome Things.
Wait, you said what before Ride On?
Resurrection.
Resurrection, okay. Resurrection and Ride On. Both of these, I mean, it's kind of like these carry some similar weights because you've got to be playing a certain deck in order to do it. The Resurrection also does get you hand protection online early because it can play a fortress. But I don't know if GOC wasn't such a heavy influence in the meta, would it really be as high as it is? So I really don't know about this one. Like, part of me wants to put it at A plus, and then part of me sees it as an S. But again, it's dependent on, like, if you're playing an Old Testament deck and you don't have New Testament, like, it's of no benefit to you. Is it really good? Yes. You have to be playing the deck that maximizes its ability. Obviously, a GOC infused deck that has a bunch of New Testament heroes is where it's going to be the most beneficial. I don't think it's worth having a fringe case to where you're just doing it for hand protection. But when an opponent can get out a neutral negate character with Resurrection Revealer and drop a counter piece, because they could grab Nazareth with this, or you could get hand protection online. Seems really good. I think I'm okay with this one being in the S tier just because of the versatility of it, and because GOC is still so heavy, has such a heavy presence in the meta.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I definitely think it's an S.
Yeah. I think that Ride On Victoriously, for the ability to play before your opponent gets to play and potentially get your Authority of Christ down to wipe out their evil characters in territory, or to do Eternal Inheritance for the 5th soul at the end of the game. There's a lot of fringe case, but I think the real benefit of it is when you flip that card from the way you normally play it, or you just keep it upright and you use it for battle extension, the versatility of that, I think, gives it its edge. and that's why I think it's better than a lot of the cards we've got at the B tier, but I don't think it's on the same level as like Murderous Command is sitting there all alone right now for us in A plus, but I don't know that it's better than Mayhem for me. Is it better than Grapes of Wrath? Depends on the deck, but I think I'm okay with it being an A, and it's potentially an A plus in the right deck. So I think I'm gonna leave it at A.
Okay, I would have put it at A plus, but I'm good with A.
It's weird because we built this list and A plus is just sitting there right now with nothing but Murderous Command. So it's hard to compare Murderous Command and Awesome Things and Ride On.
Well, Murderous Command does three things. It takes, it discards, and adds. Ride On gives you the ability to play an enhancement or add. So there's that, but you can win the game with a Eternal Inheritance, or something like that with Ride On. Things like, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's pretty good.
It's definitely a solid A, and there's the argument that it's A plus. But I said A, that's where we'll just leave it.
Yeah, we'll keep it A.
So then I will give you Glory of the Lord and Glory of the Lord. You knew that was coming eventually, right?
Oh, yeah. So Glory of the Lord, the old one, I think I would put it as a A. I mean, today's meta has definitely jumped up. It was never played hardly.
Honeypot makes it more valuable.
Yeah, I mean, Honeypot depends on it, honestly. So, like, if I was playing a Honeypot deck, it might be a S tier. Like, it is very impactful in the game. Maybe it's an A plus right now because of the cards that just came out. Pot of Mana and Holy of Holies. Like, those two cards make it much stronger.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. Either A or A plus. I'll kind of let you decide on that one. Kind of how you feel, because I'm either one.
Okay, I'm going to keep it at A then for the old one.
And then the new one, what is that one, like, restricts?
Yeah, you can't play enhancements except for on your lone priest. So you could come in with a big band, play this, and they can't play enhancements unless they have a lone priest in battle.
Yeah.
So you can do that. You can also do it when they're going to play something. When they're going to play something that's going to hurt you, you could just go ahead and throw this down, and then you could potentially block with a protected dude or something like that, which limits the way they can interact with it. So there's a lot of... Okay, the thing that I think about the most is because obviously I like Patriarchs. I think this is a auto include in Patriarchs because you get a turn with a big band to win a battle that you don't care about Scattered.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that Scattered is the arch enemy, and Scattered type effects are the arch enemy of big banding offenses. So having this as some way to mitigate that.
What do you think about A plus then? Throwing that in the A plus category.
You also have the potential to use this to stop territory class stuff. So, because it's this turn, so you can play it in prep phase, and it carries on through the battle phase to affect your opponent. It's kind of like the way that we used to play every now and then Chronicles of the Kings, except for this carries through phases because it's this turn.
Mm-hmm.
I think, if you were asking me, I think it's S tier.
I mean, I could put it at S. That's fine. I mean,
I just think that there's always a battle that can be won or lost through the enhancement exchange, and it stops you. It stops the exchange of enhancements at the end of the battle. So you get all your card advantage from your draw guys, and then you can have them block with like Saul of Tarsus. Well, I'm going to play this. You're not playing. Saul of Tarsus is not going to get to play the end of the battle on unsuccessful. So then he dies by the numbers. That type of stuff. The ability to get all of the massive benefit of a big band and not worry about the chump block is why I think it's S tier.
Yeah, no, I'm fine with that. I just haven't seen it. It hadn't been played really, so I haven't got to like really play against it. But
yeah, Okay.
Just from the wording, I mean, I could see where it could be a S.
Yeah. I definitely believe in it as a card. So
All right, I'm gonna give you Angel of the Lord and Christian Martyr.
I figured that was coming. Or
Yeah.
Christian Martyr and Falling Away, I thought might be it too. I think these are obviously staples from early part of the game. I think that, and Ager kept these separated because Angel of the Lord feels more impactful. But I think it only feels more impactful because we see it played more. I think there's and probably because offense is banned a little bit more than necessarily defenses. You know, a lot of times you're forcing a band on defense to avoid an angel play, where very rarely are you going in with a lone hero unless you're forced to these days. Usually there's banding. But I do think that you having, Pot of Mana, whichever one restricts more than one, I think makes both of these cards very, very potent right now in the current game. And I think that they always will do something for you, even if they take out a territory class guy. So call me crazy, but I think just the simplicity of them always working, which is one of the categories that you like to evaluate cards on. Is it always going to do something for you? There's not a game where you're going to sit on Angel of the Lord or Christian Martyr where it doesn't do something for you. I think I'm putting them both at A+.
I'm good with that.
I think just for the fact that they're always on, it takes out a territory class guy. So many ways that they can be used, and you can also use Second Coming in a game where you feel like you can get the tempo and keep the tempo. I think you can use the double angel play to take out two blockers that then maybe you walk in for what would have been the free card from Second Coming later on. So I think all of that kind of benefits them, and I think they're A+.
Yeah, I'm good with that.
Okay, so I will give you Star of Bethlehem. Oh wait, I didn't even see that the new Guardians of Your Soul is actually on here. Where did I say I would put that earlier? In the A+, and it could go up, or did we say A tier?
I don't remember.
I think it was A+. Either way,
A+.
I think it was the third tier down that I was trying to say anyway. So put that there. But I'll give you Star of Bethlehem and then Israel's Rebellion.
Ooh. So Star of Bethlehem, I've never played with it. I like it. I think it's got a lot of potential, especially with the Chamber of Angels, being able to get Nativity out real quick. If you draw it second or third turn, you're drawing, up to 6 cards just off the star ability, which is really good. And then, of course, being able to activate good stars, being able to reveal your discard pile and your hand and activate stars is really good. I don't know that it's really it is one of those things that's like, if you draw it early, it's kind of like, okay, now that's a card in your hand that's not really doing much because you don't want to play it early. If you get it late, it can be good, just depending on the stars that you have. But, I mean, it's a solid A for me, I think. A or maybe a B. I don't know that I would put it higher than A, though.
Yeah, I think that's about the range I would have it. I think some people can exploit it and have good results with it and feel like it's stronger than it is. But also it's one of those things to where if the opponent's disrupting your territory and things, you might not get the max payoff for it. So that just A feels right.
Yeah.
And then Israel's Rebellion, just so you know, that's the one you can take a curse, but then you discard your Evil Wilderness Human to shuffle all lost souls. So it's a Dom speed chump block.
Yeah, so I don't really play this much, but I can see a lot of potential in this. The only thing that I have against it is obviously it shuffles your opponent's souls too. So that leaves you with your opponent coming out of battle phase, most likely. If you get the block, they no longer have souls. They're not drawing anymore. You have to somehow you have to make Lost Soul in their Land of Bondage.
Oh, yeah.
On your turn. And so for that reason, I don't like it. But everything else, I really like it. I think it's a B with a potential of being an A. But
Okay, that seems reasonable. It's also another one of those that I think you have to decide: is it worth having the Dom ability for it if you can get that same type of ability in a non-Dom card
yeah,
in order to free up that dominant slot? So obviously, it does something great for you, but so does the potential, chump block of Death of Unrighteous and those type of abilities. So I think you have to wage whether or not you want to dedicate. And then you get 3 dominants now with Israel's Rebellion coming out and then the national promo for Wilderness. There's 3 dominants that you might want to play for Wilderness. Are you playing 40 Years, Israel's Rebellion, and Angel of God if you're playing a Wilderness offense and defense deck? Maybe, but it becomes a lot on you in order to fit all of those cards. So I think this would be one that would probably not fit as often as the Angel of God. And then, I mean, it feels like it's better than 40 Years because it's at least got the ability to, you still have to worry about things being protected. It's not regardless of protect. But, I mean, it gets you the search on the curse, and that curse could be an impactful thing in the game. So it adds a little bump of utility with it. I think that's a decent spot. You mentioned B for it, and then potential to be higher depending on the deck. I think that's about right.
What do you think about Strife and Led Astray?
Led Astray, I think, is going to be in the D category for me, just because I don't want to have to play Lost Soul Unity to get a payoff for my dominance, because then my dominant is forcing me to go to the deck building table, if you will, or the lab to build a deck and already build it in a less advantageous way of taking the best cards and putting them in the deck. Now, if there's a benefit for that, for having a meek Lost Soul, fine. But if I'm having to be required to run that, no, I'm okay. And then, like, it's not even an auto block.
No, because there's so many meat characters that are in battle now. That's why would you?
Not to mention, if you withdraw them all and they have battle extension, it's a D for me, dog.
Yeah, same.
Now Strife is one of those that I feel like I'm limited on where I can put it, just because of where we put some other cards on this list. But I think I like Strife more than the average person, just because there's a lot of combo-y type things you can do with it. I mean, even if you're just going with the Herod, that if an opponent withdraws from battle, you can do something. But I don't think that I can push it up, but I think it's in the C category. But I could see this being used in a variety of different decks to better results than what a C tier dominant is otherwise. So, but I think it's a C tier for me.
It's a solid D for me.
Really?
I would never put this in a deck. I see what you're saying. I know that there's potential, but it's never going to deck for me. So
it's always with like what you pair it with. But again, that comes down to you have limited 7 cards. Are you ever going to pick this over anything in the 5 categories above it?
Well, nothing in type 1. Type 2, maybe.
Yeah. Or teams, it can be really good if you use it right.
But we're talking about, these are type 1 tiers. So
you said Strife. What was the other one? Did I already do that?
Yeah.
Led Astray. Yeah, I just dropped it in D. Yep. Okay. I will give you Destruction and Shipwreck.
Destruction, I think, is a C. It's really good, but there's just not a whole lot of good benefit. It's one of them that it will always go off. You'll pretty much always be able to use it, but it's just...
So all the way down here for one that always does something, which you said was one of your main criteria.
It is, but it's not powerful enough. Like, it's just not helping you enough.
See, I would think that this would be a B tier, and it would lose out to Chronicles a lot, but it would... okay. I mean, you pick where you want, but I see it falling in line with like Rubble and Dust and... Buckler and Harvest Time, like with those, they're You put them in, you can get good results out of them, but they're not potent enough to be in that top end of the tiers here.
Okay.
But I feel like it's better than like the Gods of Egypt, A New Beginning, Burial, Strife. I mean,
yeah, you convinced me. I'll throw it in B. That makes sense.
okay.
Shipwreck, I think, is at least an A in today's meta. It's flirting with the A plus for me because
Okay.
of the swing of how good fortresses are getting right now, and how much, like, if you need to get rid of a Nazareth, or something like that can lock you down, you're it could really swing a game. So it's an
Yeah.
A, but I feel like it's flirting with the A plus.
Okay. Fair enough. What you got for me?
So what do you think about Pillar of Fire? And I think it's the Lord of Armies, maybe.
Oh, the
Yeah,
other
Lord
one.
of Armies. One does the first Samuel Heroes, bans in 3, and one does Exodus Heroes.
Yeah,
Pillar of Fire.
I think Pillar of Fire is the only one we have here on his thing. I don't think he has the other one. I think Pillar of Fire is good, and I think the other one is good. I think the other one's going to be a lot better with some new cards coming out. But I think these are limited in their usage because of obviously we're not expecting them to be super strong coming out of dominance, right? Or I'm sorry, out of starter decks. But OT Human may ban to up to 3 Exodus heroes. Okay, if they wipe out your heroes, this isn't battle extension. I think if there was an element of battle extension to it, it would jump up probably 2 tiers. But I think as of now, dude, it's even hard for me to, like, I could see this being a C, just because, like, we haven't seen it used to any great effect. We know that you can do the Noah shuffle and keep the dominant and play it again. I don't think anything's happened to stop that, right?
Mm-hmm.
But how good is that really? So I'll put it at B tier, and I would put the other one also at B tier because in the right deck they're as important to the decks that they go in as maybe Buckler would be to a deck. But I don't know.
They're both C's for me, but you could throw them in B if you want.
No, I'm gonna put it in C just because of that. That's kind of where I was wanting. I didn't want to be so harsh on it because I haven't seen it played or anybody really try to play it much. But that's about where I was feeling. So let's go with Valley of Dry Bones and Falling Away.
So Falling Away, I would have to put it up there with Christian Martyr. Where did we put that?
Christian Martyr was A plus.
I mean, I don't know how you can put Christian Martyr up there and not have this one up there, just because not only can it give you a block or get rid of something that you need to, but it's also a very good choose the blocker.
Yeah, but also keep in mind Christian Martyr is only affected by territory protection, and now you will have territory protection to worry about for Falling Away, plus the new Glory. Or I'm not new Glory, new Guardian, because it does protect from convertibilities. So if they get that down, then it makes Falling Away kind of a dead card, kind of like the old one, the old ebb and flow of Guardian versus Falling Away women's. So that's just something to keep in mind. Christian Martyr only has to worry about territory protection and not protected from convert. It has to worry about protected from discard, but there's not a dominant that sits in territory and makes that something to worry about.
Yeah.
You do have, I guess, like fortresses and things, but again, you would also have to worry about those to play Mayhem. So I feel like it might get hit a little bit on Guardian coming out.
I didn't think about Guardian. So beforehand, yeah, obviously I would put it up there with Christian Martyr, but when the new Glory comes out, if Glory is something that the meta is starting to play,
Guardian.
Guardian. What did I say? Glory?
A bunch of new G's.
Then once Guardian comes out, yeah, I'd have to move it down to probably a B, maybe a C. But for now, I think it's up there with Christian Martyr.
Okay. Fair enough. What about the old Valley of Dry Bones?
Valley of Dry Bones, I've never been able to get it to work really well. It's one of those cards that it looks really good. Like the ability looks really good.
It does counter the Ashkelon combo.
Yeah, well, yeah, its stock may be rising, I guess.
You could release all Captured Heroes before they trigger 4 times. That's just, I mean, that's mostly a joke. I think it's one of those that, like, I've never put it in a deck ever because I just don't see a benefit of it over other dominants that you can play.
Yeah, it seems like a B to me. Like it's not. I don't think it's not a bad dominant, but it's just not one that people play.
Yeah, and you have to be building a deck that's going to take advantage of it. So I think you're right, and I believe that just leaves me with these last 2.
Vain Vision and the Holy Spirit.
The Holy Spirit, which plays in your territory when your New Testament hero enters battle, search deck or discard pile for a Fruit of the Spirit enhancement. I did play this at one point in a deck that was trying to, I started to try to play this in a toss deck to be able to recur peace, but I don't know why I ended up not playing that other than just I acknowledged naturally that it was bad. Like it's not worth a dominant slot even if it lets you just spam something. Okay. So the Holy Spirit feels bad. Like I don't want to be mean or anything, but I think it's a D tier for me.
I mean, in its time, it was good, but now there's no place for it.
And guys, if you're wondering, yes, it's after 12:30 here now recording because this dominant tier list went way longer than we thought it was going to. We would have sped through some of the early part of the podcast to get here, but we're here now. We're going to finish it up, but Vain Visions. I think this card allows you to potentially, since it looks at the top cards, it doesn't reveal for like a Jeshua. It doesn't it doesn't feel that bad because if you have 6 evil prophets, the problem is the evil prophets are not a defense that you can play and be super competitive with. I think Vain Vision really suffers from kind of like a New Beginning. It's like it might be good, but what is it good with? Where do you fall on the usability of it? So I think I'm putting it in C reluctantly, but it feels like it could be in the D category just because I haven't seen anybody be able to use it to great effect. Now, if you had evil prophets that you can consistently get up to the whatever, so you take 4 or 5 cards, that's good there. Like I don't mind that being a tier above and being even in the B category potentially, but you just don't see it used that way. If you see it, it's like a fringe gimmick type play. I honestly, the last time I saw it, I drafted it in booster. Or actually, it might have been passed to me toward the end of a pack before all the Meek stuff. And I took it before the Meek stuff. But just using it to look at the top 6 or whatever and put Lost Souls in play just to try to soul gen. But I think it's in the C category. So I think that's where I'm at.
Yeah, I'm good with that.
So that gives us in the S plus category. We've got Son of God, 3 Woes, Second Coming. S category, Crowd's Choice, Resurrection, New Glory. A plus is Murderous Command, Angel of the Lord, Christian Martyr, the new Guardian of Your Souls that'll be coming out at Nationals, and then Falling Away. And then if you want to see the rest, we'll share this somewhere. But that is where we would put the dominant. So we capitalized on or piggybacked off of what Ager the Wise had going. Lost Souls, we might have to limit it to like the top 20, Brad, when we do tiers for those, because that could get crazy. But that's where we see the dominance. Brad, you look like you're about to fall asleep. I'm not going to talk anymore. I'm trying to go sleep myself. So we're going to leave you guys right here with it, and appreciate you listening along. Peace.
Peace.
All right, guys, that's going to do it for this episode of the Threshing Floor Podcast. Like I said, next time we'll probably talk about Lost Souls like we were planning to do previously before the internet issue and then before the realization of the tier list being a better way to do it. But thank you guys for listening and sticking around. And as always, we appreciate you. Peace.